And welcome to the 2023 Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Employment Summit. And now, please welcome to the stage the Director of Military Spouse Programs for Hiring Our Heroes, Brian Alvarado.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. There we go. It is with immense pride that I welcome you all to the Great Hall of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the home of Hiring Our Heroes. On behalf of Eric Eversole, the president of Hiring Our Heroes, I welcome you to the 7th Annual Military Spouse Employment Summit. Last year, I stood before all of you with the fighting words, "Now is the time." And it was. It was the time for building more workforce pathways for military spouses. And we did that. It was time to solidify an ecosystem of events and programs that military spouses can enter and re-enter at any given time along their career journey. And we did that. It was time to put more spouses into fellowships, and we did that. It was time for us to work together to build the professional confidence of career-minded military spouses, and we did that. It was time to connect military spouses with employers who want to hire them, retain them, grow them, and be better for it, and you did that. Together, we served thousands of military spouses since we last convened at this summit. And I want to just thank from the bottom of my heart and my team's heart for all of your partnerships. I'd like to welcome all of our partners, our military spouses in the room, and other stakeholders who are here in the room or watching as a part of our global watch party. Throughout today's event, we will have a series of live interactive polls that we would like for our audience to participate in. When prompted, please scan the QR code on your screen, or if you're in person, the QR code is in a document in your folders. So let's give this a practice run. If you're in person, scan the QR code in your folder, or if you're at home, scan the QR code on your screen and tell us where you're tuning in from. We'll have several more of these throughout this summit today to gather your insights on the topics we're talking about today. And now, to kick us off, it is my honor to introduce a powerhouse executive, an active duty U.S. Army military spouse, one of our nation's foremost thought leaders on military spouse employment, and my boss, the executive director of Hiring Our Heroes, Elizabeth O'Brien.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to the HOH team and the Chamber team who have been working months to prepare for this day. I am Elizabeth O'Brien, Executive Director at Hiring Our Heroes. It is wonderful to be back in the Great Hall at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in so many ways. First and foremost, I want to thank our sponsors. As many of you know, our sponsors are true partners in every sense of the word. They go to work every day in our communities and work to create change for our military spouses. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, USAA, to our platinum sponsors, Booz Allen Hamilton, Comcast NBC Universal, Deloitte, Fiserv, JP Morgan Chase, LinkedIn, and T-Mobile, to our silver sponsors, National University and PedFed Credit Union, and to our presenting sponsors, Armed Forces Insurance and Vetrix. I also want to express my deep gratitude to Eric Eversole, the president of Hiring Our Heroes, for his unwavering commitment, visionary leadership, and unparalleled dedication. Under his guidance, military spouses, a population that is 92% female, have been provided a powerful platform, an amplified voice, and a global presence. Eric's tireless efforts have significantly contributed to the empowerment and recognition of military spouses in the global workplace. His work exemplifies the profound impact a true leader can make through their passion, their vision, and their unwavering commitment to a community. Thank you, Eric. Ladies and gentlemen, both present here in our nation's capital and joining us via live broadcast, I want to emphasize today the power of communities, the importance of strong partnerships, and the need for progress when it comes to creating solutions for military spouses seeking employment. As an active duty spouse for almost 20 years now, and during our nation's longest wars, I have witnessed firsthand the transformative impact communities can have on individuals' employment journey. In 2014, I landed right here at Hiring Our Heroes at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And that was after numerous moves, New York to Hawaii, to California, to Kansas, to Kentucky, to Germany, to DC, in 8 years. This experience marked the beginning of my deep involvement in studying the challenges faced by military families and military spouses seeking employment. Motivated certainly by my own career challenges, what do you do with a recovering college basketball coach when they try and go do workforce development, and my strong desire to serve the community, as so many of you do, that I am very much a part of. I delved into understanding the impacts and barriers faced by military spouses. I can confidently say that communities play a critical role in helping military spouses find meaningful careers. Hiring Our Heroes has intentionally built micro-communities within the communities that we live, creating economic empowerment zones, military spouse professional networks, of which we have 70,000 members, amplify days of professional development followed by hiring events. Each of these finds success because American businesses have come alongside. Both small and large businesses have responded by creating pathways, launching employee resource groups, and allowing spouses to identify and, in many cases, embracing remote work. But the truth of the matter is we need more companies and more communities to come alongside, because despite these efforts, military spouse unemployment remains alarmingly high at 21%, reminiscent of the numbers seen during the Great Depression, while our civilian peers enjoy record lows. Just last week, Department of Labor released their recent statistics. Our civilian peers are unemployed at a rate of 3.4%, the lowest since May of 1969. Just this week, we closed our own survey. And remember, people that participate in our survey are already career-minded military spouses, often seeking pathways to employment. 90% of our respondents expressed the desire to have dual income in their active duty military families. 80% of the respondents were active duty military spouses. 35% of our folks surveyed indicated they are not employed but are looking for work. 35% versus 3.4%. Of those we surveyed, 42% said they were underemployed with respect to education, experience, and hours. So take all that information and know 80% of our respondents are either looking for a job or it took them more than 4 months to find a job. The final part of that was, do civilians and our communities understand military spouses? And asked how well they think Americans understand the challenges that we face on a daily basis. More than 3/4 of respondents said most Americans did not understand the challenges at all or well. Think about that, the disconnect that exists in our communities. And so I return to the belief that our communities hold the key to creating meaningful change. Communities are crucial in job searches, even for those seeking remote work. Most Americans find jobs through personal and professional networks, but we don't have those. We must work together to change that. And we have models of communities that have created that change. Previous recipients of the Community Impact Award at Hiring Our Heroes, such as Tampa, Washington, and San Antonio, are shining examples of communities that have risen to the challenge and created solutions for the most pressing problems. Most recently, Congress implemented a policy that allowed Hiring Our Heroes to collaborate with the Department of Defense and Deloitte to place military spouses into fully funded internships. That policy effort was initiated by our great friends at the National Military Family Association and MOAA. This is what a redefined vision of community looks like, the legislative branch and government collaborating and working alongside businesses and nonprofits to create the change that we need at the highest levels. We must commit ourselves to rethinking the way we build communities, how we shape the future of work, and how we go to work. And finally, how we make progress ensuring military spouses find meaningful employment, and this will all happen within our communities. Each one of us has a role to play, building, nurturing, creating those communities, and our success depends on the collective efforts of everybody. We must truly come together, redefine the very essence of community. It transcends mere geography. It is a bond forged by shared experiences and an unwavering commitment to one another. It is within these communities we'll breathe new life into our collective purpose and improve the lives of those who have given so very much to our country. I know that today we stand at a crucial crossroads where we have the power to breathe that new life into our collective efforts and shape our communities to truly drive economic empowerment for military spouses. Together, we will reshape the narrative to rewrite the story of community and create a world where military spouses find open doors and boundless possibilities. So join in our collective journey where unity paves the way for extraordinary achievements and allows military spouses to pursue their version of the American dream. And now, I'm thrilled to welcome to the stage a dear friend of Hiring Our Heroes, Mona Dexter, the VP of Military and Veteran Affairs at Comcast NBC Universal, and our first panel of Why Military Spouses Are Good for Business.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Brian, Eric, and the Chamber for having us here today. It's truly an honor to be here as a military spouse and a military parent representing Comcast NBC Universal, a company that was founded by a veteran in which our values are intrinsically committed to the military community. Hopefully one day we will have somebody on stage who is representing a Fortune 50 company founded by a military spouse. Let's hope. That's the next goal. So I'm thrilled to kick off today's discussion about the progress that has been made, many of which Liz pointed to, through grassroots efforts in our communities, made possible through the power of partnerships, specifically partnership between the private sector and the nonprofit sectors. Military spouse employment influences our nation at both the micro and macro levels in our communities and at the national security level. The 2023 Edelman Trust Barometer was recently released and indicates that currently business is the most trusted institution. This survey is based on the concept that trust is the ultimate currency in the relationship all institutions build with their stakeholders. So to pull on the thread of Brian's comments from last year where the time is now for the business community to really advocate for continued progress. So again, please join me in welcoming our esteemed panel here, who I would like to ask to introduce themselves. So we'll go down the line, start with Carolyn, and keep going.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Cawley, and I'm president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, also a proud military spouse, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But welcome to the Great Hall. This is one of the first events that we've had here. We've only had a few since this room was redone during the pandemic, and we're really proud of it, and we think it's beautiful, and hope that you do too. So thanks for being here today.
Hello, good afternoon, friends and new folks here as well. Meg O'Grady from National University. I'm the Senior Vice President for Military and Government Programs.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lori Simmons, and I'm with Armed Forces Insurance, and I'm the Chief Growth Officer.
Hi, I'm Jamie Gayton. I work at PenFed Credit Union, served on active duty for 30 years, and now I'm the Executive Vice President for Member Operations and Global Fixed Assets.
Thank you all for being here. And yes, it is great to be back in the Great Hall. This is fantastic. So thanks to all of you who are with us today, as well as those tuning in virtually from wherever you are around the globe. Caroline, I'd like to start with you as we're talking about how partnership is really the key to solving challenges. So the Chamber of Commerce Foundation's mission is to anticipate, develop, and deploy solutions for the good of America and the world at large. So how is the foundation utilizing its network and partnerships with businesses to enhance employment opportunities for, as Liz stated, the military spouse community who continues to be drastically underemployed and unemployed?
Well, I think there's no better spokesperson than Liz, who you just heard from, to lay out the problem set and the solutions that the Foundation and Hiring Our Heroes initiative has brought. I'll tell you a little bit of my backstory because it informs how I'm a part of this and how I'm approaching the problem. My parents worked for the Department of Defense as civilians. I lived overseas I lived in base housing my whole life, on every service, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, you name it, Europe, Asia, Hawaii. And then I married a Navy guy. He had been a former enlisted sailor and then ROTC and then became an officer, so that was a whole lifetime of being a trailing spouse. And so I say that to demonstrate that I've spent my whole life knowing military spouses, men and women, who were struggling and were challenged to fulfill professional ambitions and professional aims. I went through that myself, and one of the reasons that my husband chose to retire when he did was so that I could continue with a career that I had stopped and started and stopped and started. And so I'm grateful for that, but those challenges don't need to be there. Because a family has made a commitment to this country, shouldn't also bring with it limitations after a lot of education and a lot of commitment to careers. So that's why I just feel so committed to the work of Hiring Our Heroes, which, as you know from Liz and from your engagement here today and lots of other events, Hiring Our Heroes was launched 13 years ago to address a really important challenge, which was to create connection between service members and veterans and civilian employers, and those connections just weren't there, and soon it expanded to include military spouses. But to bring it back to the Chamber and the Chamber Foundation, the Chamber is the largest business advocacy organization in the country and probably the world, and so I just think at the Foundation, we have the best, most inspiring place to work from, which is that we're working in the context of the larger Chamber of Commerce. And we know a few things. We know that there is a massive worker shortage in this country. We've got 9 million jobs unfilled. And through the work and the network and the relationships that HOH has built, not only here, but globally and bases overseas, we know there are 1 million military spouses who are an incredible untapped pool of talent. Highly educated. 51%, I think, have a bachelor's degree or more, which outpaces by probably 20% non-military counterparts. They have JDs, MBAs, community college degrees, vocational skills, and the challenges are there. So it's our job to bring together creative solutions. We come to work every day knowing that business is a great problem solver. And so by bringing that problem solving together with a huge pool of untapped talent that can address the worker shortage, it's just a great combination. So I'm happy to talk more about all of the things that HOH does in its spouse network. Liz had outlined a few of those, but when you look at things like remote work, Hiring Our Heroes was doing that from the very beginning in a 100-year-old organization, and now we all know how to do it. I think 80% of employees at HOH are spouses, and so it's real and it's authentic. Things like flexible work, we all know how to do that now. Childcare is another issue that we work on at the Foundation. It is not limited to non-military families. It's a challenge on every base. San Antonio, Norfolk, San Diego, you're waiting 18 months to get off a child care list. The point that I'd like to make is that a lot of the work that we do at the Foundation and at the Chamber benefits all kinds of families, military and non-military, and it's our job to make sure that business understands the unique circumstances and qualifications of military spouses, because the skills are there, the commitments are there, the resilience, the adaptability to change, and it's just it's a big opportunity that more companies need to know more about, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. It's fantastic that the Chamber, as that world, really the largest business advocacy organization in the world, really has the foundation to create those connections. And to your point, a lot of the challenges that military spouses face in the workplace are not unique just to military families, but can be a great framework and starting point and a foundation for continued progress and change for families across America. So thank you for the work of the
I would
foundation.
even say if there's one good outcome from the pandemic, it's that some of these programs and mechanisms that have huge benefits to military spouses have become so normalized. Right, remote work, flexible work, portable jobs, and so we've really got to lean into that and not let that get away.
100%. There have definitely been some silver linings. Well, thank you. Lori, I'd like to turn to you a little bit and talk about how sometimes from a business perspective, it starts with philanthropic support for communities or a particular population or a particular initiative. So can you talk to us a little bit about your organization and how the philanthropic support can really lead to bridging the gap across communities?
Sure. Well, I think I should start with a little bit of history about the Military Spouse of the Year Award. It was founded in 2008, and it was an award at the time. For several years, it was an award, and we stepped in as the title sponsor. It was facilitated through Military Spouse Magazine back in the day, with one overall winner, no branch winners, no base winners. And as the years went on, as the title sponsor, I got really close personally to the community, and they started reaching out to me wanting more content, more around the entire initiative. They didn't want to have just an award on one day in May. They wanted to have a program. And so in 2018, we decided that the only way that we were going to be able to grow into a program was if we acquired the award, and that's exactly what we did. And I'll tell you, as a former military spouse, having to piecemeal my bachelor's degree together while raising 3 young children and my service member serving on a hardship tour in Korea, my heart went out to that community. I understood, the challenges that they had been going through, and I felt compelled as an executive in an insurance company where our motto is "Our mission is you," that those are words that we needed to really live and not just say on paper. And so years later now, we actually do have, we're a privately owned company with an initiative that supports our spouse community. And it has become a super channel for connecting spouses with spouses, spouses with employers, and providing resources for military spouse-owned businesses. I don't think it's a stretch to say that it has also become a quintessential networking system that just continues to feed off of itself. And from an employment perspective, the program has opened doors for many of the spouses to, have careers in companies, whether they are privately owned corporations, DoD positions, or even not-for-profit organizations. And the best part about this program, and this gets to my heart, and it's just unbelievable the way that we all look after each other. They pay it forward. So when they get selected for a role in a company or with the DoD, and there are openings that they're aware of, they look behind them and they bring those forward. And there are many examples of that in the community where someone has gotten a position and they know someone else in the MSOI community that is qualified, and they support them, refer them, and again, pay it forward, bringing them up from behind.
Thank you. Awareness is critical. clearly, and that's what this program has helped with, is really raising awareness, but also going from a philanthropic investment to making the business case, to driving business investment and really understanding this talent pipeline. So thank you for that. It can, as you mentioned, lead to investment in talent, supplier diversity, DEI goals, whatever it may be. So again, great example. Jamie's pulling on the thread of talent there and employment. PenFed has some really great examples of how hiring can be done at scale. But can you talk to us a little bit about how what works in one place may not work in another business unit or one area or an industry, but how hiring pipelines can be replicated by following some best practices? We've had some conversations with many folks in the room that will attest to the fact that there is no only one way to do anything, but if we can start with some kind of basic frameworks that are showing success, that would help really jumpstart a lot of efforts.
Sure. Thanks very much for the question. So ask any leader out there, what is your number one priority? And the answer is going to be hiring high-quality talent. Ask any leader out there what their number two priority is going to be, finding a pipeline to hire high-quality talent. As I mentioned before, I served in the Army for 30 years, and I understand the power and the value of military spouses, veterans, and family members. It is amazing. The technical competence you bring to the table is extraordinary, but in addition to that, and this is what I really look for when I'm hiring, is the passion, the engagement, the sort of grit and the get-it-done mentality that comes with anybody associated with the military. It's powerful. But labor is a market. I taught economics up at West Point for 5 years, right? There's employers on one side, there's folks that want to be employed on the other side. And the power is bringing them together and finding a way to do that in a way that benefits both sides. It starts with, in my eyes, culture. PenFed, when I was retiring 5 years ago, I looked all over the place for a job. I decided to go with PenFed because I saw the culture that I wanted to see. I saw that they embraced the military culture, that they lived the same values, and that they were going to live that going forward, and we're going to hire folks the same way. When you look at what James Schenck has created at PenFed, 4 of the top 8 leaders have military experience. And because of that, we value and understand what we bring to the table. That's important, creating that culture that says we take care of the military, we understand the value you bring. And that comes with some things, right? We know that there's deployments, we know that there's PCS moves, and you have to understand that fully support it if you're going to bring folks in that are going to stay with you for the long term. We also built an environment internally. We have some military folks that actually are involved in our recruiting. They understand how to translate military jargon to the business world. And they do a great job of that. We've created that culture that says we want to embrace, we want to reach out, we want to get military folks to come working with us, military spouses especially. The third piece of that is that you really have to sort of watch the signals of those employers that are out there, right? Some of them will use lip service. Some of them really embrace it and they believe in it. When I look at these big organizations, and we take time to sort of compete for awards out there, you see these things, best military employer, best military spouse employer, GI Jobs, when you look at Military Times. We take the time to fill out all of those applications, put forth all our credentials. We're signaling to the world out there, hey, we want you, we understand the power of you, and we want you to see us and come to us. So that's the employer side of the house. It is incumbent upon, in my eyes, a lot of the sort of installations and the organizations that are tied to that to sort of help our military spouses see the power and the value of finding not just a job, but finding a company that values you and is going to bring you under the fold and actually is going to nurture that going forward. So now I carry that forward. And the real world is, how do we execute? It's not just what do we say, but how do we do this? There's micro examples and there's macro examples. For me, recently I had a branch manager, because we're a credit union, we have branches and we have call centers and those kinds of things. Branch manager, his husband was PCSing down in San Antonio. I think she looked at the job boards and saw that there were no branch openings down in San Antonio, so she did the right thing in her eyes. She submitted her letter of resignation, okay? That actually rose up to me because everybody knows how I think about these things, how important it is to me. I called her on the phone, her name was Christine. I said, Christine, are you leaving because you want to take some time in between assignments? Or are you leaving because there was nothing available to you down there? And she said, Jamie, I love PenFed, I want to stay with PenFed. I said, then we're going to keep you with PenFed. We will put you in a remote role until we find something that fits. I knew down the road I had a branch opening up in 9 months, so potentially she could finish that. But 2 months later, she actually reached out to me and said, Jamie, are you going to be uncomfortable if I apply for this phone manager job in PenFed down in San Antonio? I said, Christine, I'd love that. So she applied for the job. She got the job. She now oversees 45 folks. She's in heaven, right? But the power of that is not just that one individual. The power is that everybody sees how important that is, and when we put somebody in that role, they thrive. And I want that to get outside the organization as well. And it needs to get to the installations so that you're pushing people in a direction that says, find a company that values you. I can tell story after story like that. I had a male spouse whose wife was a major, same thing, but not going to our military area. So we hired him on remotely, and he did a phenomenal job for us, right? And so it just continues to work. That kind of stuff is big, and it really drives it home. Last point I'll make on this. I run the call centers for PenFed. I get inundated with folks calling me to say, hey, why don't you outsource with us? We have a great organization. We care about your folks. And I smile and say, there's no way you care about my members more than what my teammates do. So I've said no to all of them. I got a final call, I shouldn't say final, but I got another call from one who said, hey, listen, I started a company and we go out to all the military bases and we hire military spouses to take phone calls. Are you interested? I sat down with them. We made a connection. They're called Triple Impact Connections, based out of Killeen, Texas, i.e. the Fort Hood area. And now we have 56 folks answering the phones for us down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, just off post. That, in my eyes, is the pipeline, because they now have the ins with the ACS on post to be able to recruit more folks to come in. So this is a long-term kind of a thing that can grow, because now spouses know where to go to find companies they're going to support. Loved what I've done, and happy to answer any questions later on.
Thank you. Those are excellent examples of how it's deeply rooted in the values of the company, and there are high-level initiatives that are focused on bringing in the right talent, but there is awareness at the people manager level to ensure that, but also the empowerment at the people manager level to make decisions to retain that right talent as well. So it really does go top down and bottom up.
Thanks.
Yeah. Meg, so let's talk about educational opportunities and how education is often that connective tissue between talent and employers. So just out of curiosity, how many employers do we have in the room? Okay, so about half. How many military spouses are in the room? And there's going to be some overlap. Okay, about half. So this is something that we need to speak to both sides of the audience here. How can employers support learning and development of military spouse employees? But also, how can we help military spouses look for the right educational programs that are going to be designed to feed the employment needs?
So higher education is changing. I think all of you know that. You see schools closing, you see folks changing, you see different institutions and organizations changing. At National University, we have 3 pillars that we really look at. One, you want to find a school or a training provider that not only values the experience of the military spouses, but what they can bring to the classroom experience itself. And one of our 3 pillars is whole human education. And when we look at whole human education, that's not just looking at academics, it's not just looking at careers, although those are very important. We're also looking at social emotional wellness. How do we support that in our students? How do we support financial goals for our students? And then how do we look at their communities and how are their communities supporting them? So at National, we have all kinds of resources around whole human education for our students. Where we come in is looking at those resources that exist, and many of them are right here in this room, connecting our students with those communities and connecting them with those resources that exist. So whole human education. The second thing that we look at is we say we want to have a value-rich experience, and I think that's really, really important. As higher education changes, we want to get credentials built into our programs. We want to prep folks for industry certificates and certifications. We want to get them into their career as soon as possible, as early in their academic career as possible. We are working with Department of Labor on things like apprenticeships. We work with other community colleges in order to have their students come in and to help train those community college professors in this whole human education. And lastly, we work with more than 200 employer partners to connect our students with the education that they need. And then I would say lastly, you should look for next-gen education, which is a little bit of what I was talking about. But I'm not just talking about innovation and technology. I'm talking about innovation in the classroom, innovation in the methodology, innovation in the connections that that school is making for their students, and then innovation across the board in adaptability and flexibility for those students. I know our 25% of military students at National University have a variety of ways that they can look at their education, that they can take their education, and that their education is delivered for them. So I would say all of those things: whole human education, next-gen education, and then those value-rich experiences.
Thank you. As a former higher education professional, it's great to see the synergy between the business community and the education community in terms of building programs that are really creating applied knowledge experiences and preparing students for the workforce for the jobs of the future. So thank you for that. I'm going to beg forgiveness from the stage manager. I have great confidence that he is not going to give us the hook and give us just a couple minutes here to close out and really do kind of a lightning round for a call to action. We saw in the audience we have about 50% employers, about 50% military spouses. There is some overlap. We know that we have our great federal partners here, other nonprofit and military serving organizations. But as we're representing the business community and really advocating for the business community to really move progress a little bit forward, or further forward, it's evident that employers are in different stages of readiness for employment practices as it relates to military spouses. So I'd like to ask the panel to offer a call to action each for an employer, but then also a military spouse. So, for example, for employers, it's if you're just getting started, don't try to boil the ocean. Start with one, whether that's one job family, whether that is one business unit, whether that is one hiring manager, and it will grow from there. For the military spouses in the room, I would say, start from a place of what exists, not what doesn't exist, as you're looking for a good fit. And hear these stories up here. You might not see a policy in place, but if there is a people manager who understands who you are and what you bring to the table, that people manager will be a great advocate for you. So again, start with what does exist. But I'd like to ask the panel to offer a call to action as well for both audiences. Anybody can start.
I'll start. To the employers out there, I would just say, look for resources like the Military Spouse of the Year initiative. Those are movers and shakers, trailblazers in the MilSpouse community, and can be a resource for core employment for your businesses.
Okay, well, I made my call to action before. For employers, signal to everybody that you embrace, that you believe in the culture, that you understand the value. And you can do that by getting awards, like I said, going out there and submitting for GI Jobs and all those kinds of programs. And for, the military spouses that are out here, understand that it's not just a job. If you take the first job, it's not necessarily going to be a career, so make sure you understand the fit. And if that company really supports the military, you're going to be happy, and probably for years and years and years, because they'll take care of you. The one thing I didn't mention, my AVP for branches, she has traveled the world and PCS'd all over the place, and now she's moving out to Washington State. She's been with us for about 15 years and has risen because we've taken care of her while she's moved.
And I would say for employers, as you're looking at career paths for military spouses, really think through what those career paths could be for those military spouses as they move around. As you know, many of our military veterans come to an organization and they really want to see what's the next step for me. And if you can really have the vision and forethought to look at, as I'm employing these military spouses in one position, where can they go? How can I retain them? And the career path really helps for them. And for military spouses, I would say, don't be afraid to ask for that. Ask for what could my career path look like here? To Jamie's point, you don't have to resign. You can talk to somebody. Even if you're not really sure, all they can say is no. So I would say, advocate for yourself.
I'll pick up a thread that Mona mentioned, which is for employers to not try to boil the ocean. I think one of the questions that we get the most often every single day at the Chamber and the Foundation is, what does good look like? Even the most progressive or advanced companies, as regarded by the public, are still saying, what does good look like? What are other companies doing? What are other employers doing? And so finding a role model and just picking one program or one practice and starting there can just take you, really far. And for spouses, I would say recognize, as Mona mentioned, that a lot of these programs that can benefit spouses already exist. They're just not packaged that way. They're not called that way. But if you think about the tools and resources on an individual basis, I think you'll find them in more companies than you might expect.
Absolutely, and great advice. And I will say at Comcast, we are learning from Verizon. We are learning from USAA. We are not trying to create this from scratch on our own or continue to build on our own. It's collaborative, and that's why we're a whole community driving this forward. So I would like to thank the panel and the audience, but before we go, we do have one more order of business, and this is for you, the audience. One is just to ask you to take one takeaway from this conversation and take it back to your organizations. The other is a poll, which I believe there will be a QR code on the screen. Is there a QR code coming up, or is it in the folder? Oh, okay, my apologies. There is a QR code in your folder for the in-person audience. I'm sorry, for the virtual audience, there's a QR code on the screen. This question is to ask what career development programs you participate in as either an employer or a military spouse. So we're doing a little bit of fact-finding here in addition to hopefully sharing some best practices. So please take a moment to complete that poll, and thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Okay. And thank you to the panelists. Please join me.
My name is Melanie Sheridan. I am a military spouse. Coming to Amplify, I was hoping that they'd be able to help me tell my story. On paper, it appears that I've got more resume gaps than I actually did. So I wanted them to be able to help me gel all that experience and just to be able to communicate that better to future employers. An online search led me to Amplify, and I was fortunate enough that they had an in-person event here in my city. So I spent 3 days with them learning and networking and polishing up my resume and my LinkedIn, and we got headshots, the whole thing. It was a nice opportunity to be in the room with that many other spouses, and we all get each other because we're all coming from that same perspective of having that military lifestyle. One of the ways I've benefited from Amplify is just confidence, being able to, again, tell my story, tell my career story, tell my professional skills in a really drilled down way. I think for a lot of us who haven't maybe been in the professional workforce for a while, or there's been that gap, that confidence that you gain will come through when you're meeting with your potential employers. Something great that happened that came out of going to Amplify is there's resources that I didn't really know that were available to me. So I was able to take and complete my Google certificate in digital marketing and e-commerce. And I also learned about a fellowship opportunity, and I was able to apply for a 12-week fellowship that I've been working on, and I'm actually finishing up as we speak. Finding this resource has just been invaluable, and it's been a confidence booster and a complete game changer, both for myself and my family.
And now, to moderate our next panel, please welcome, from Deloitte, the Honorable Rosemary Williams.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that warm welcome and the great walk-on music. Today we're here to talk about creating employment pathways of economic opportunity through strategic partnerships, which is all of you. And with us today we have Crystal Cochran, Senior Director of Hiring Our Heroes, James Rodriguez, the Assistant Secretary at Department of Labor for Veterans Employment and Training Service, and Bessa Pinchatti, CEO of the National Military Family Association. And how about a nice warm welcome for our beautiful, wonderful guests. And we're going to jump right in to be respectful of everybody's time. Crystal, let's start with you. So leveraging earmarked funds from the National Defense Authorization Act has given DoD a unique opportunity for offering fellowships to military spouses. Can you riff on that a little bit?
I'd love to. Thanks so much, and hi to everybody. If you haven't already heard about our military spouse fellowships, like literally hold on to your seats. You're truly not going to believe how impactful they can be in terms of connecting employers to talent, as well as what a great example of public and private partnerships this is. Going back to 2017, we were able to launch a pilot program that was geared towards military spouses. It was templated, modeled after a highly successful program we already had, our corporate fellowship program that serves transitioning service members. And we knew this was going to be a way to effectively get at the problem. So we were able to grow that over the years with support. And over the last 5 years, we've been able to show some tremendous success. What do we define as tremendous success? We've had over 1,000 fellows go through the program, military spouse fellows. 88% of them have had job offers at the end of the program, and the average salary offer nears $70,000. So letting that sink in for a minute, an 88% job offer rate, that was exactly where we wanted to go. We knew that this is a model of a game-changing program. And by the way, we haven't done that in a vacuum, right? This has truly required partnership. So our pilot in 2017 was the result of a Department of Labor grant. I'm gonna hold you personally accountable for that right here, James, so thanks so much to Department of Labor for that.
Glad to support.
And then once we had that pilot, our partners on the private sector truly stepped up and raised their hands and said, we believe in this. We want to see this grow. We want to help you nurture it and sustain it so that we can really see what can become of it. So partners like USAA raised their hands. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, First Command came to the table and have supported this since that point. So thanks so much to all our partners in the room. Which leads me to MSCAP. Okay, so the Department of Defense's military
We can never really
spouse-
get a good acronym, can we?
It's our newest, latest, greatest acronym. The Military Spouse Career Accelerator Pilot. So our good friends at National Military Family Association and at MOA advocated to Congress about the power of military spouse fellowships. And because of that, Congress included in last year's National Defense Authorization Act both the mandate and the funding for a 3-year pilot program for military spouses, active duty military spouses, to participate in fellowships. So now we are absolutely thrilled to be able to expand this nationwide in collaboration with the Department of Defense and our friends at Deloitte. So we've just soft launched at the end of the year with this. In the short few months since we've been running it, we've already put 130 spouses into fellowships, and we're starting to see those placements come in. So this is a golden opportunity. We want to be able to utilize this opportunity while we have the amplification and while we have the funding power and while we have this true collaboration to be able to show the power of spouse fellowships so that they become a program of record. Because at the end of the day, this is always going to require joint public and private collaboration. We're going to have to continue pooling resources and pooling supports to make this a true success, because this can be that game-changing model that truly connects military spouses to employers.
You know, it's rare when you can start a pilot with data like 88%. And I've hired 4 in various careers I've had, and it is absolutely the best program. Most of the spouses are mid-career. And it's not just an answer to unemployment, but also underemployment, right? It's remarkable. Not by accident, this started at Department of Labor with a grant from Department of Labor. James, where all good things about employment start. Let me ask you a little bit about strategic partners and what do they look like for federal entities who are working to create pathways for economic opportunity for military spouses.
Well, thank you, Rio. I think one of the things that I always remind everybody is that most people, when you hear, I'm with the federal government and I'm here to help, most people kind of get nervous, right? But in this case, it's a good thing, right? Because what we want to do is ensure that all of our partners at the regional level and at the state level are included in the process with the federal government. And one of the things that we have created over the last year as a pilot was a program called the Employment Navigator Partnership Pilot. And what it does is supplements someone's experience when they're going through the transition assistance program. Spouses can also attend, as everybody knows, can attend TAP, but they can also be participants in the Employment Navigator Partnership Pilot. Right? What that does, through our 50-plus partners, and HOH is one of our prime partners in that program, it allows us to connect spouses, transitioning service members, to partners who have as Liz mentioned, that micro-community feel, right? They can welcome them to their communities when they're transitioning something. They will know what jobs exist in those communities when they're leaving through our partners. But what I was getting to earlier about the community, the regional level, is that we have 1,800 American Job Centers across the country at the state levels, at certain cities, right, across the entire country, at every major community where our spouses are going to, or our veterans are transitioning to, because as most people know, a lot of times spouses, just along with their veterans, are going back to what they know when they leave military service, to those communities they know, right? And so as part of the American Job Centers, we have resources there that we are looking to expand to our military spouses. We just had a military spouse who was a veteran at the time, transition out, and she said, I went straight to an American Job Center because I had no idea what to do when I separated from the military, and I went there and I found my first job.
Is it true that every American lives 50 miles or fewer from an American Job Center? There's some amazing statistic.
That is, yes.
That's remarkable.
And then as part of that Employment Navigator Partnership, to supplement the AJC support there that we're looking to expand on, through the Employment Navigator Partnership Pilot, we had over 3,000 spouses last year alone go through the pilot program, right? Now, that's a start, but it is a pilot, right? And the reason I say that is because we have to do more, and it's a pilot program that we're looking to expand, hopefully permanently here in the future, to make it a more permanent program that's accessible to military spouses. And it's going to be on basis, if all goes well, all across the entire country, to include overseas.
Wow, that's fantastic. We are reminded that so much of this work is done at the local and regional level. You know, we're here by the flagpole, but there's so much work that's done out in the hinterland.
Exactly.
At Deloitte, we did a study about military spouse unemployment, local solutions for a national problem, and the response has been overwhelming. People really want to help, especially at that local and regional level. Bessa, and I wanted to ask you about strategic partnerships to promote progress for the military spouse community that aid in military retention and recruitment. This is a new conversation. I mean, we've always been buzzing about it in this, in the echo chamber, but now it's getting outside that, if you really want to recruit and retain, you have to start looking at military spouse employment. The recruits today and in future generations marry at their achievement and education level. So if you want a high-charging cyber warrior, you kind of have to take this into consideration. Tell us a little bit about NMFA, what you're doing.
I'm excited that the conversation has been elevated and that we're now talking about the family role in that, because most of us in this room have known that for a while. But if a family is not financially stable, if a family is not happy, that family cannot responsibly stay in the military. So the fact that we're broadening that is so critical. Besides our work on strategic partnerships with Hiring Our Heroes and some of the MSCAP program, the legislation that we've worked on together, we also work with some incredible partners in both the nonprofit space and in the business community. I see a lot of you here in this room. We have a scholarship program at NMFA, and we get close to 10,000 military spouses applying for scholarships every year. 10,000. We're only able to serve a fraction of that. And a lot of those military spouses are working on a second career. They need a license, they need a certification. Our partners at Fisher House have been huge in supporting that program, but also we've worked with Boeing, for example, on military spouse licensure and certification and making it easier for spouses who are moving across state lines. And truly, there's nothing that we can do without our partners. A lot of you in this room, and it's not even, as I mentioned, it's financial stability for the family, and we know that food insecurity is a huge issue for a lot of our military families, and we have partners at MFAN that we work with on issues like food insecurity, on BAH, and restoring that to 100%. There's a lot of critical issues, and they all tie together, and it just is incredible that there are so many engaged partners in this room who are just raising their hand time and again and saying, how can I help? So thank you for that.
One of the more humbling moments when I was working at the Pentagon with military community family policy, and there were a lot, was the annual call with NMFA where they would offer us the spouses who needed a scholarship, who applied for a scholarship and you could not fulfill, and we would slide them into the My Career Advancement account program. So that partnership is so important, both regionally, nationally, locally. And it's a great opportunity to kind of swallow your pride and say, well, how can we leverage each other's goodness?
And I also want to share that the way that we evaluate those scholarships is through partners and volunteers. So if you are interested in really hearing from the spouses themselves explain what their career path has been, why they need a scholarship, and why it's so important, I would encourage you to reach out and we can get you in that rotation because those stories stay with you. I know you've read them, Rosemary.
That's great. So we only have a couple of minutes left. I wanted to ask for all of the panelists, for spouses and for employers, for folks who work in the government, what is your call to action or tip or trick as far as getting involved and getting more active? And Crystal, I'm going to start with you since we started with you earlier.
Thanks, Rosemary. My call is to the employers in this room, as well as those who are joining us via live stream. If you feel like your organization hasn't cracked the nut on military spouses yet, tap into our military spouse fellowships. This is hitting the easy button for you. This is the way when everybody's standing around kind of scratching their head saying, how do we do this? We don't know how to access this talent. We don't know how to support it. This is the easiest way to get started. And also, if you're a small or a mid or a nonprofit, there is great, great power in that, where we have found some really fantastic connections across the board, all sizes, all types of organizations.
I was working for national nonprofits when I hired the 3 fellows. They're still working at the nonprofit. This is a way of testing talent we're not supposed to say free with Pentagon, at no cost. James, how about you? Any advice, call to action?
Yeah, I would say one thing to briefly to supplement what Bessa said about the licenses transfer portability, right? The Service Civil Relief Act that allows for military spouses to transfer their license across state lines. And so Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Labor, we all work with Congress to ensure that this legislation was indeed something that, and of course all of the nonprofits, everybody that worked together to make sure that act was passed to support license transferability, because that was one of the most important things that we continue to harp on. But what I would ask as call to action is for military spouses themselves to self-identify. One of the things that we know does not happen that often is military spouses don't always self-identify, and all of us in this room know why, right? Because of some of the barriers that exist there. But there are amazing military spouses in every industry in the entire country that are doing phenomenal work, just like they did when they were military spouses prior to separation or retirement. And they're in industries doing phenomenal work. I mean, 2 of them are up here on the stage, 3 of them are up here on the stage with me, right? But I think the reason that's important is because we often don't see military spouses in their actual environment, unless they self-identify. And oftentimes they're CEOs, there's CFOs, I mean, they're executive vice presidents, they're entrepreneurs, they're business owners, everything that you can think of, military spouses are in that arena. But oftentimes we don't know that they're military spouses.
Yeah.
And so if we can put a label on those military spouses and we can see how amazing that they are doing, then that would resonate with corporate leaders, that would resonate with other folks who want to ensure that other people that look like them can also have a path to success. And so I would encourage military spouses to self-identify.
Wonderful. You know, and it's really up to the military spouse as to when he or she self-identifies. And when organizations make it easy for that or beneficial, it's even better. We have at Deloitte, we have the Military Spouse Initiative, and it's peer-run, peer-led, and it grows every year because they start to see the value. One thing about the portability, the licensure portability, if you're interested in more information, at DOD, the Defense State Liaison Office, you can go to Military OneSource and look up where what states have passed which laws in support of military spouses. Bessa, how about you?
I want to piggyback on one quick thing, which is that one of our legislative priorities for the year is for the federal government to start tracking military spouse unemployment. So that's huge. We would love your help in supporting that issue. And the other thing is that I know that everyone in here understands what military spouses go through and their contributions to this country and wants to employ military spouses and make military families stronger. My call to action would be to go out of this room and share what you're learning, share what you're seeing in your local communities, among the other leaders that I know that you're in touch with, so that we can spread the conversation further and make more progress together.
So you can tell who the former news anchor is. We have less than 27 seconds. That was brilliant. I will say that tracking military spouse employment and any other data don't lie. You want to build a program, defend a program, fund a program, data. With that, thank you for the panelists and thank you for your attention today on this important topic.
Thank you.
Please welcome, from Blue Star Families, Penny Bolden.
That was definitely the most exciting introduction I've ever had. A quick show of hands, who in this room is currently a military spouse or was a military spouse? And then keep your hands up. Who in the room served in uniform or is currently serving in uniform? So most of the people in the room. It makes sense that those who are most personally affected by an issue would step up to exact change. But I'd like to encourage everyone in the room today to use data, because data is really compelling, to tell the stories, our stories, to everybody else outside the room. Because we also need them to fight this fight alongside us. Blue Star Families was founded 14 years ago because a very smart group of military spouses, I mean, they're all smart. And we know that because the data tells us that they're more highly qualified than their counterparts, civilian counterparts. But apparently this was a particularly smart group, recognized that all Americans seem to care about their military. They say they want to support their military, but they didn't know what help was needed and therefore how to actually help them. How can you help someone if you don't know what the problem is? So they started with the what's needed. 14 years later, many of you in the room know that this work as the Blue Star Families Annual Military Family Lifestyle Survey. It's the most comprehensive survey covering all of the things to do with military family life, and we now have 14 years worth of data so we can do year-on-year comparisons. We just released the data from our 2022 survey, over 10,000 respondents from all services and all ranks. I'm going to give you a quick summary of the top 5 issues from 2022. Number 1, no surprise to anyone in this room, military spouse employment. Number 2, again, no surprise considering the lifestyle that we laid, time away from family. But here's where it gets interesting and why it's important to look at all of the issues, because they're also very connected. Number 3 in the top 5 issues for military families in 2022, military pay. Think about that, military pay. It roughly translates to, we can't afford to be in the military, especially when you don't have that second income. Number 4 was BAH, or the cost of off-base housing. The vast majority of our military spouses no longer live on a military installation. They have to secure their own housing options, and some markets are much harder than others. When the Bolden family received orders to the Pentagon back in 2012, I filled out 14 rental applications from Bethesda to Bowie to Fredericksburg, everywhere in between. I ended up renting a house for 4 months before we PCS'd from San Diego. Why? Because I needed a signed deed or lease in order to enroll my kids in school. Renting that empty house in Falls Church for 4 months put us out of pocket a lot of money. Which brings us to the number 5 issue, relocation costs and PCS issues. Nobody talks about things like having to throw out everything in your fridge and your freezer and half the stuff in your pantry every single time you move. The fact that the last house had shower screen doors, this house does not, so now I have to run to Target and I have to buy shower curtains and shower liners and the little rings to hang them all on for every bathroom. Do you know how much it costs just to replace the condiments on the inside of your fridge door? Moving is a very expensive endeavor, and our MilFams are out of pocket thousands of dollars every time they move, every time they PCS. And for some, that is harder to overcome, to catch up than others. So if you look at that list of the top 5 issues, with the exception of time away from family, every issue is financial. It's about the personal financial cost of serving your country. Our families are worried about housing and relocation costs, which means they then have to focus on issues like military pay and spouse employment. Liz mentioned earlier that 35% of spouses want to work but are currently unemployed. Many of them need to work. So we need to solve mil-spouse unemployment because our families rely on that second income to make up for the fact that military pay is not enough to support a family in many areas of the country. But if the personal financial costs like housing markets in San Diego and Northern California and Washington, D.C., those are our duty stations. I'd like to personally thank the Marine Corps for sending me to the top 3 most expensive real estate markets in the country. And if relocation costs are not also addressed, we'll never have that opportunity of pulling our military families back into a financially secure position. So that's the top 5 for 2022, but there's a lot more data in the survey where that came from. Please visit the Blue Star Families website, navigate to the research page. We publish this data for you to use to help solve the issues. But as you dive around in that data, another devastating statistic I wanted to highlight, and that is related to this conversation, is the statistic around food insecurity. 1 in 7 of our enlisted families report experiencing food insecurity within the last 12 months. And another, our survey respondents tell us that childcare is the single largest barrier to spouse employment. Food insecurity is an effect of financial instability, and childcare is a barrier to financial stability. So as you examine this issue of military spouse employment, I encourage you to look at all of the data from the Blue Star Families Military Family Lifestyle Survey and examine all of the causes and all of the effects. Again, we produce this data for you so that you can see the problems, so that you know what needs to be solved. We continue to remind everyone this is still an all-volunteer force. This is a matter of retention, it's a matter of mission readiness for our nation. If our families can't afford to stay in the military, they simply won't. As a military spouse who's been affected by all of those issues, I want to thank everyone in the room today for focusing a spotlight on them, and a special thank you to those who support our annual survey, because we certainly can't do that work without you. Thank you for having me.
Presenting the Community Impact of the Year Award, please welcome, from Deloitte, Biff Lyons.
First, I just want to say, this is beautiful, right? What a beautiful venue, what a great day. It's beautiful outside and a great day to be here celebrating and honoring many of you out in the audience today. So at Deloitte, I'm proud, we're all proud to be included in this important summit, and we're particularly thrilled to present this award to a deeply deserving community selected by Hiring Our Heroes. The Community Leader Impact Award is a recognition of dedication, active support of military spouses and their households. And just last Friday, on Military Spouse Appreciation Day, Deloitte celebrated and honored the courage, resilience, and dedication of the more than 400 active duty military spouses and 1,100 veteran spouses we employ. And we take particular pride in the work that they do each and every day. And we actively work to support and employ military spouses through our Military Spouse Initiative. And we do this because it's the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. And we're grateful for the military spouses' commitments to our organization and our country, and we understand the sacrifices all military spouses make to support their service members calling to protect our nation. Now, military spouses are particularly inspiring in the ways they balance their careers while honoring their families' military commitments, and our awardee is a longtime supporter of military spouses and expanding and protecting their employment opportunities. This year's recipient is an exemplary champion of active duty service members, National Guardsmen and reservists, veterans, their families, caregivers, survivors, and spouses. To be honored with the award, the receiving community and its leaders must create and foster, and I quote, so I do want to get this right, a strong, inclusive community that allows military spouses to thrive both inside and outside the gate. This year's recipient, the Commonwealth of Virginia, has done just that with its commitment to making the state a great place for military families to live, work, and raise their children. And through community action, the Commonwealth fosters an environment that empowers military spouses and constantly blazes the trail for improving their livelihoods and well-being. Dr. Daniel Gade, the Commissioner of the Virginia Department of Veterans Services, is a champion of the military-affiliated community and someone who is dedicated to keeping Virginia the #1 state where service members can stay, work, and thrive. So we're honored to share this afternoon with representatives, advocates, and most importantly, military spouses, because family readiness is military readiness. And it's my absolute pleasure as a Virginian and representing Deloitte here to present the 2023 Community Leader Impact Award to the Commonwealth of Virginia and Dr. Daniel Gade. So, unfortunately, Dr. Gade's not here today, so can we get another round of applause for Dr. Gade?
Hey everybody, Senator Tim Kaine here. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today, and I'm incredibly honored to be named Hiring Our Heroes Congressional Impact Award recipient. I want to congratulate Virginia for being named the recipient of the 2023 Community Impact Award for the work being done all across our Commonwealth to promote military spouse employment and well-being. You know, across all levels of government and political parties, Virginia knows that our military service members, veterans, and their families are a vital part of our communities and economy. I know that myself as the father of a United States Marine. When we support military spouses in pursuing careers and entrepreneurship opportunities, we expand our economy, enhance our military's readiness, and we also show that Virginia values the sacrifice military families make to support our country. Virginia has continued to make strides to support military spouses over the past couple of years, including through bipartisan legislation to create a dedicated liaison for military spouses, among other initiatives. In Congress, I'm working to enhance military spouse hiring and boost job opportunities for military spouses through the bipartisan Military Spouse Hiring Act, which I've introduced with Senators Boozman, Hassan, and Rounds. Now, this bill would add military spouses to an existing work opportunity tax credit, giving an employer an added incentive to seek out and hire military spouses. I'm also working to expand access to affordable child care, a challenge I hear about in every military community that I visit as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So we need to pass my Child Care for Working Families Act, which would lower child care costs and help ensure families can access the child care they need. I want to thank you to Hiring Our Heroes and all of you in the room for your tireless advocacy in support of this important priority. I look forward to continuing to partner with you to get this work done.
Now take a short break. Our program will resume at 2:35.
love that's true. Oh, yeah. Than to be fooled around and get hurt by you. 'Cause when I give my love, I want love in return. Oh, yeah. Now I know this is a lesson, Mr. Big Stuff, you haven't learned. Mr. Big Stuff, tell me, who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? You're never gonna get my love, Mr. Big Stuff. You're never gonna break my heart, Mr. Big Stuff. You're never gonna
Please take your seats. Our program will resume momentarily.
Mama Pajama rolled out of bed and she ran to the police station. When the papa found out, he began to shout and he started the investigation. It's against the law. It was against the law. Oh, what the mama saw. It was against the law. The mama looked down and spit on the ground every time my name gets mentioned.
Please take your seats. Our program will resume momentarily.
I don't know where I'm going, I'm on my way. I'm taking my time, but I don't know where. Goodbye to Rose, the queen of Corona. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Whoa, in a couple of days they're gonna take me away, but the press let the story leak. Now when the radical preach come to get me released, we is all on the current news week, and I'm on my way. I don't know where I'm going, I'm on my way. I'm taking my time, but I don't know where. Goodbye to Rose, the queen of Corona. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
I'm Lisa Slaba and I'm a military spouse. Like many military spouses, moving and relocating has really impacted my career. I would say one of my biggest challenges in finding new employment is my resume. It does show I've lived in multiple places over the years, and trying to show that I am a good employee, that I do have the skills needed, and making that outshine anybody else in that. That is where Hiring Our Heroes and Amplify has truly helped in that journey, because I was able to meet other military spouses who are going through the same challenges that I am. I was also able to learn more about what an elevator pitch is and narrow that down and fine-tune it to what exactly I'm talking to them about or want to talk to them about. I did attend the GROW event right after Amplify, and I ended up broadening my net to see, okay, well, what roles are available. I think Amplify and GROW really give a big boost of confidence, because you are seeing what other spouses have done to get into the positions that they're in because they've attended these events. They were given that extra oomph. A few months after attending Amplify, I was able to network my way into a role I am really passionate about. Now I work for the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation as their military project manager. It's just come full circle that I'm able to do things I'm passionate about personally, but I'm now able to be passionate about it professionally as well, as I bring my military community and the community that I'm currently living in together. So I learned about the Military Spouse Professional Network through Amplify. The MSPN is a place for military spouses to come and network, to grow, to develop their skills, to learn about resources, and to meet others who are dealing maybe with the same challenges or the same excitement that they are as it pertains to employment. It offers a place for you to be authentic, and it offers offers a place for you to grow as a person, but also as a professional. When I got involved with Hiring Our Heroes, the impact that it gave me was not at all what I expected. I was wanting to just grow myself and better myself, and now that I see the impact, I try to share it as much as I can, and I'm excited about it, and I just want other people to experience it.
Please welcome back Elizabeth O'Brien.
Hello. I want to take a moment, certainly, as we start to filter back into the Great Hall and find our seats and move to Russ Briefing Center, from Russ Briefing Center into here, certainly to take a moment and recognize some great friends of the Hiring Our Heroes program that are with us in the audience today. Our great friends, Dan and Deb Kloppel from Military Spouse and Vet Jobs, and appreciate all the great partnership that we do on a daily basis with you. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot do what we do without true partners from communities outside of our American defense communities. Since 2012, USAA has been a true partner in leading change and innovative solutions in partnership with Hiring Our Heroes. Once again, today, USAA is our presenting sponsor. Please join me in welcoming Tara Llewellyn, Chief Diversity and Sustainability Officer, USAA.
And I love it, she got the USAA. Thank you, everyone. All right, we all gotta learn how to dance. I'm really honored to be here today representing USAA. Just under a year ago, USAA celebrated its 100-year anniversary. And that's a milestone for any organization, but for us, it means 100 years of serving the military community, something we're incredibly proud of. And at USAA, the military community means the whole family, and it means our spouses, who are the bedrock of the military family. They are coaches, they are teachers' aides, they are accountants, they are house managers, they are keeping things running when members are deployed. There's no end to what military spouses do and the skills that they bring to the workforce. Oh yeah, and on top of it, they have great careers too. And that's what we're here to talk about today. It's our reason for coming together to work collectively on military spouse employment. As someone who spent the bulk of her career as a national security practitioner, multiple tours in that 5-sided building across the way, a great couple years in that white building just across the park from where we are now, I firmly believe that military spouse employment is a national security issue. I believe it. We know that the financial health of military families is deeply connected to national security. And we know that military spouse unemployment and underemployment deeply affects the financial condition of military families. So for me, those issues are deeply intertwined. And it's something that as we think about how we can best serve our country, no matter where we sit, military spouse employment has to be one of those things that is top of mind for us every single day. It's what we focus on at USAA quite a bit. We had people raise hands earlier if you're an employer in the room. If you represent anyone who employs military spouses, raise your hand, please. I salute you. Now, of all of you, how many of you know what % of your workforce are military spouses? Fantastic. At USAA, we're approximately 10%. And so we know it can be done when you put your mind to it. What I would encourage every employer in the room who doesn't know what that percentage is and doesn't know what that number is just add it to your voluntary self-ID. Add it to your workday or your other programs that allow you to find out from your workforce how many military spouses you have working for you, and then set a goal. Move the needle on it. We all know that in business, what gets measured gets done. And so if you don't, as we talked earlier, if you don't have the data, it's a lot harder to move the needle than when you do. So if I have one ask for this community today, it's to really think hard about adding it to your voluntary self-ID. I also want to point to a study that we did with Hiring Our Heroes last year. As Liz said, we've had an incredible partnership with a number of organizations who focus on military spouse employment, including Hiring Our Heroes. And we're really proud of that program, and we're also proud of the constant innovation that's occurring in Hiring Our Heroes. Last year, we had a chance to partner with Hiring Our Heroes on a study called Belonging at Work. And if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I really encourage you to do so, because it focused on the lived experiences of military spouses. If you need to know what military spouses encounter as they're trying to be employed by our organization, read this report. And in particular, we focus on military spouses from underrepresented groups, which face additional challenges and struggles in terms of finding employment as they're supporting their military members. And I say this, it's very personal to me. So my husband followed me around in my military career for a good part of it. I would not have been the person I am today, the officer I was when I was in the military, and I wouldn't have had the kind of resilience that I would have had in some of the most demanding roles that were asked of me had I not had that partner. Part of the 8%, so think too, there's male spouses out there who are also looking for a great career as they're supporting their military members. Finally, I just want to encourage everyone in this room to learn from each other today. There's a lot of great lessons. As we know, Comcast, great lessons. Verizon, great lessons. People even in our industry, great lessons. So as you go through the bulk of this afternoon, please learn from each other, take those lessons away, bring them back to the organization, and be in community with this group here, both in the room and online. There is a lot to learn from each other. I'm grateful to be part of this community. I'm grateful to represent USAA as we get to support this work and support this broader community. Thank you so much.
Please welcome our next panel moderator, the Assistant Vice President for Human Resources at USAA, Tiana Carter.
Exciting. I was hoping I was going to come out to Beyonce, but you know, it's okay. I am thrilled to be on stage today, and thank you, Tara Llewellyn, for sharing those remarks. I bring to you a fabulous panel where we're going to talk about the future of community, military spouses, building America's inclusive workforce. And so I'd love to welcome my panelists to join me on stage. All right. Well, I'm joined by Tom Downs, Principal of Diversity, Talent Acquisition, and Pipeline at Booz Allen. Denise Lewis, Director of DE&I Initiatives at Military Spouse Jobs, as well as Siobhan Gordon, Global Head of Diversity for Company Infrastructure at Morgan Stanley. And so I know we are going to have a rich conversation today, but one of the things I really want to touch on is the fact that you all heard it today, right? Military spouses are some of the best employees at our companies, right? At USAA, we know what it means to have folks who serve, because that is our customer, our member base. They are resilient, they are creative problem solvers, they are innovative. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of having them in their workforce and what more we can do to set them up for success. So, Tom, my first question is for you. We know that 92% of military spouses identify as female. We also know that close to half of military spouses are also of ethnic minority group. So lastly, we do also know that businesses and communities are experiencing a very positive impact of diversifying their workforce. How does Booz Allen see military spouses as it fits into the diverse hiring efforts?
Thank you for that. Obviously, like many of the companies here, or those that are online watching the telecast today, us at Booz Allen Hamilton, the military spouse population, also with veterans obviously, is an integral part of both our diversity and our military talent acquisition strategies. A big part of that we've, as someone said just a minute ago, we've also kind of led or followed suit, if you will, in regards to the self-identification process. What is your workforce comprised of? How do you measure success there? The old adage, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. We've activated that opportunity within our applicant tracking system called Workday to make sure that spouses can also self-identify if they choose to do so or not choose to do so. But at any point in time during his or her or their career in the organization, they can turn that button back on and say, yes, I'm a military spouse, and we can support them in that capacity. Also, as they cross that finish line to be a new hire, we have a military spouse network to welcome them and receive them, not just the military business resource group. That's part of it, but they should be affiliated with their own organization. Secondly would be that all of our geographic locations across the globe are typically co-located with major military installations, all branches. So it's just a one-to-one correlation where why would we not engage here? Then secondly, of course, there's hybrid and remote opportunities. And then third, I'll steal a little bit of Siobhan's thunder as well as the intersectionality of diversity, and also, as you mentioned at the lead-in. There's also, of course, there's ethnic diversity within the women population that are military spouses. There's also military spouses who may have an apparent or non-apparent disability. There's also military spouses who are LGBTQ. And there's also military spouses that are veterans. So why would that not be a critical part of an organization's outreach, engagement, and recruitment strategy? Not just military, but also for your holistic diversity strategy.
Yeah, and I think that intersectionality part, Tom, is so important. It's a great way to pull people into your diversity initiatives unintentionally, right? It doesn't have to be either or, but the both and acknowledging that most people are a part of multiple groups, and how do you capitalize and build on that?
Absolutely. Well, Denise, we heard Elizabeth quote earlier today that about 21% of military spouses are unemployed or underemployed, and some by choice. They choose to stay home, but others, if they go into the workforce, sometimes they're not met with welcoming arms, or they see challenges with advancing at companies. Talk to us a little bit about how creating an environment of belonging leads to sustainable employment for military spouses.
Well, Tiana, backstage I said to you, gosh, I could go on about this forever, but I know I only have a
I told her
couple
I'd
minutes.
blink twice.
But it really is an important topic, and primarily, since the Great Resignation, just in general, how do you keep anyone wanting to stay at a job? And it comes down to what you're putting in your statements as it relates to diversity to make it welcoming. And so some of those key words are inclusive, value, trust, welcoming, nurture, sustainability, transferability, equitable pay, and promotion. And putting those actions behind those words are training, implementation, and progressive initiatives. There's a company out there, one of their statements, they say, we can't promise we'll always get it right, but we will always put our people first, and that's so important. And then just a couple of other things: identify and educate any unconscious biases or microaggressions, especially as it relates to military spouses. A bias microaggression that is most commonly associated with military spouses, because military spouses make up 92%, is maternal bias. And that's that time that they want to spend with their family that's misrepresented. So really taking a look at those things, and then create and implement events that include the family, because that's what military families are really about, and spouses, and that's what's most important to them.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was. Denise, I love that. And I think the other thing that COVID taught us, we all talk about the Great Resignation, but as leaders, it's really important for us to be vulnerable, right? And to actually create the space to talk to our teams and our employees and to hear the stories, because that's where we learn, right? If I think about what I learned about kind of the journey of the military spouse, I learned it from Tom. By the way, Tom and I used to work together. I learned it from Tom. I'm going to put it on the spot. I learned it from Melissa. Just having those conversations and understanding, and then sharing also our journeys as leaders. I think that was amplified during COVID when we all were scrambling with our kids running around in the background, or maybe we had a roommate in New York and couldn't really be on calls because they could hear it, or we were taking care of our parents. But encouraging those conversations, I don't know that I want to call them courageous conversations, just conversations, and creating that vulnerability so that our teams, our employees, our spouses feel heard. I think that was really important.
I think once you start to hear those stories, you realize there's so many more points of connection, and kind of going back to my comments, you realize this is a resilient group of folks, and who else do you want on your team as somebody who's resilient, who can navigate change, who's agile? I mean, and then next thing you know, they're like, we want more military spouses. And so I absolutely think that storytelling is important. So I'm going to stick with you, Siobhan. Diversity comes to our companies and orgs in a lot of different ways, I think, which is great for some, but also challenging for others trying to manage all the different pipelines. Talk to us about how Morgan Stanley has success building programs and initiatives that support different experiences and different diverse factors.
Yeah, sure, happy to do that. I've been with Morgan Stanley for just about a year. I joined from Capital One, where I own diversity recruiting and military spouse support was a big part of that. One of the things that we do at Morgan Stanley that I think helps us with sharing kind of the stories of our veterans and our spouses is leveraging our employee resource group or business resource group or whatever you call it. And it's interesting because I've heard the theme while I was sitting here listening to the other panelists around self-ID, and probably each of you have the same challenge that we do, which is a lot of our veterans don't self-ID and a lot of our spouses don't self-ID. And so we've really been trying to talk about the things that our employee resource group is doing, to talk about the programs that we are supporting, with the hopes that it will encourage them to self-ID so that then we can create even more programming to support them, but then also use that as a mechanism to get their stories out to Morgan Stanley. Right? We can't tell the stories if we don't have them. And so our employee resource group has been looking for ways to do that. I also heard somebody say it was a no-brainer to support the fellowship program. We do that. The data don't lie. And so when you get a couple of fellows in and they are knocking it out of the park, what happens and what has happened for us is people start knocking on the door and say, hey, Siobhan, how can I get one of those fellows? Right? And so supporting programs like that that are beneficial for both spouses and our veterans are super important, and then amplifying that message. So we share that across the firm, and then we look for those opportunities to amplify the intersectionality as well, because it is a both and. So our military, our veterans, our spouses are also women. They're also Hispanic, they're also Black, they're also LGBTQ+. And so they are partnering with our other networks on initiatives to show that intersectionality, but then to also let people know that our veterans represent a really significant part of our diversity journey. And then there's the storytelling, and I'm really gonna put her on the spot. I had a military spouse on my team, and we learned about being a spouse together, right? And what it takes to support a spouse. The one thing I would challenge all of us to do is traditionally, one of the reasons that our spouses are underemployed is because they just stop trying to get jobs, because they know they have to PCS, they know that it's hard to keep jobs when they move. And what COVID proved to all of us is you don't have to be in the office to do a good job. And so what we are doing is going back and looking at our jobs and saying, hey, is this a job that we want to earmark for a military spouse? Because guess what? They don't need to be in the office to be effective. And really pushing our teams as they do their demand planning, as they start to look at these jobs, what can we earmark for our military spouses so they do get an opportunity to be a part of the corporation? And I would challenge each of you to do that with your organizations as well. What are those jobs that we truly can keep remote? And then how do we start to look at some of these programs like the fellowship program to be able to pull our military spouses in there? So really pushing people to think differently, because this is the new normal, right?
That's right.
We talked about COVID as the new normal, and I feel like we're still evolving that.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have at USAA VetNet and VetNet Spouse, and there are ERGs or DBGs that are supporting the military spouse community. And one of the other benefits I would say is sometimes when I look at initiatives, a lot of them are focused on, okay, we're going to put military spouses in call center jobs because those are the most mobile. But some of the VetNet or ERG groups are helpful to know, like these are the other opportunities at the company, and so you don't have to leave, or this is not your only path. And kind of sharing those experiences, I think, also helps from a retention perspective, knowing that you have other pathways and options. Were you about to say something?
I was going to add, and especially if you do have a lot of military spouses that work remotely, is creating that sense of belonging still while they're remote. Maybe you have a fun Friday, or where it's just chillaxed and, everybody dresses in a theme, and you have that on a Friday, but it's still creating those initiatives even though you might be remote.
And one thing I think that I've also navigated through these different conversations with the stereotypical type of thing that we try to break, obviously, is, well, where could a military spouse work here? I said, well, any job, to include mine and yours. So it's not just this little niche part of the organization where he, she, they can work. It's everywhere, and that's something else we amplify across the firm. But then, secondly, if not most important, is we don't want spouses to self-eliminate as they're going through those job descriptions and kind of teeter-totter. And it's like, click that doggone button, come talk to us. We've got a mailbox just for veterans and spouses to engage with. So it's not that black hole of an applicant tracking system. It's an actual conversation.
I think it's really important to have that conversation. I think a lot of times when military spouses are about to PCS, they feel like they have to quit, but put in policies in place that allow, like, okay, your job might be hybrid, but guess what? You actually can be remote, and that helps a lot as well.
I love that. I mean, not assuming that you have to quit, right? How do we actually have a conversation? And the way that you do that is they have to feel like they're included and belong. Is there a network? Is there somebody that they can go to that can create a safe space for them, and they can have that conversation without fear of repercussions, or maybe they're going to be fired, being able to have that conversation.
And I would also add, thinking outside the box, is that employers consider, especially if they have any advocacy related to paid volunteer work, consider a military spouse who juggles it all, who does military volunteering in her unit, their unit. But consider that, what's that initiative? Maybe it's 10 hours, paid time off that, they're participating in because that's important, and that advocates to, service. So just to take that into consideration.
Absolutely. Well, I know our time is coming to an end, but I definitely want to do a few things. So one question, rapid fire, would love your perspective for the audience. So since, I'd say over the last 3 years, there's been a lot of energy around DEI. There's been kind of this surge of engagement and excitement. But the reality is a lot of diversity and initiative programs have a long tail, right? There's systems, there's process, there's policy, there's pipeline, there's all of these things that you have to build, which oftentimes can put a little bit of fatigue in the system when you're not necessarily seeing the results from an employer side of the house. So maybe share with the audience one piece of advice or counsel you would give companies or allies who are feeling a little bit fatigued, or they want to do more, or maybe they're not fatigued, but they're like, hey, we need some more perspectives and ideas. Would love to hear, kind of a minute from each of you.
Sure. I think another part that, Eric and I have talked about in the past as well is the veteran hiring fatigue. A lot of companies, to your point, like, hey, we've been doing this for 10 years. Well, it's not going to stop. I mean, there's 200,000 vets plus families getting out every year, so you can negate that population for opportunities to be your coworkers, or you can suffer those consequences. But holistically, we also just, once again, point about the diversity within the military spouse population. It's not just who you see across the desk, it's everyone you see in this room and across the internet. It's everywhere. And it's a population that, once again, if you're overlooking an opportunity to engage and diversify your workforce by sidestepping this population because he, she, or they has to PCS in 2 years or what have you, it's that diversity of experiences plus the overall diversity that they're bringing to the table that any organization, Tom's words, just would be foolish to overlook.
I would just add that there's a lot of great companies out there that are doing amazing things. They have already put in the work. So I would say if there's forums out there or ways that you can connect with those organizations, That's huge, but the economic impact that I think that employers are missing out by having diverse candidates and just the cultural differences is really significant.
Yeah, plus one on the economic impact. I think a couple things. One, celebrate the wins, right? A lot of times we have wins we don't celebrate, right? Maybe you increased your fellowship cohort by 2 people, or maybe somebody got a really coveted job. Like, how do you celebrate your small wins so that people do feel like, oh, I am making progress, even though we've got a long way to go? And then my other advice is, how do you incorporate diversity into your BAU so that people don't feel like it's another thing that they have to do and they kind of roll their eyes and say one more thing, right? How do you make it a part of the day-to-day? It is not an additional. This is how we hire. When we hire, we automatically consider spouses and veterans. When we plan, we include these organizations. Like, how do you integrate it in so that it is a part of the BAU? Hey, it's a part of your job that you are accountable for, and so people don't feel like it's an additional burden, because really it's not. It's what we should be doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Recently at USAA, we actually just moved the employee talent strategy into HR, because when you think about all of the HR systems, your acquisition, your development, your succession planning, your learning, your career pathing, most of that's in HR driving those policies. And so, now it sits over so that it is BAU and not this separate appendage that you're trying to figure out how to build into the ecosystem. So I know we are at time. This has been wonderful. And I will tell you, as a military spouse, child, and grandchild, I am honored to be on this stage and sharing it with all of you. We are moving into another live poll. And so if you want to pull out your phones for the QR code, research shows that military spouses bring diverse experiences and thought into the workplace. On a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you think employers understand the benefits of hiring a military spouse? So I'll let y'all do the quick QR code, but any other closing remarks or comments before we exit the stage?
Thank you.
You're good? All right. Well, thank y'all so much for the time today.
Presenting the Impact Award for Volunteerism. Please welcome, from Vetrix, Mary Redding.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Oh, it does kind of go on for a while. Now I understand the dancing. Okay. All right. As the first recipient of the Military Spouse Employment Volunteer Impact Award a couple of years ago, it is a great honor to be here today in the very same room with some of the same folks to present the award to the 2023 recipient. In 2016, this year's awardee joined the Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Professional Network in Southern Nevada. At her very first MSPN meeting, she met a recruiter who referred her to a hiring manager, and she landed a job at Caesars Entertainment, cutting her post-move unemployment in half. The next time she moved, she received coaching through MSPN to negotiate to take her job remote. For the very first time, she retained her employment through a PCS move. Because of that experience, she felt a calling to give back and became a volunteer with MSPN. When she made that military move to a small town in New Mexico, to Cannon Air Force Base, she was motivated to start an MSPN group so she can continue to serve the community. She led her community to be one of the most productive and impactful military spouse professional networks in the world. Through the years, this military spouse has volunteered over 1,000 hours to help fellow spouses build meaningful careers. Please help me congratulate and welcome to the stage Amy Schwartz as the 2023 Hiring Our Heroes Volunteer Impact Award winner.
I would say this has definitely been a game changer. I'm holding my head up higher because I completed this course.
Career Forward is changing the paradigm on military spouse employment by providing military spouses with the credentials and skill sets needed for 21st century careers.
At Google.org, we believe that everyone should have an equitable pathway to achieving their full economic potential. And that's why Google.org is tremendously proud to support the Career Forward program by Hiring Our Heroes to train military veterans and their spouses for high quality, in-demand jobs.
I learned about the Career Forward program through a Hiring Our Heroes event. These courses will help spouses gain employment, and then we can help them retain their jobs and retain the guardians.
With over 80% of middle-class jobs in the US requiring a strong knowledge of digital skills, the Google Career Certificates can help train veterans and military spouses for jobs in fast-growing fields like data analytics, digital marketing, and IT support.
I looked at the certifications that are offered and thought, Molly, if you take this opportunity, you will show other spouses that this is available, and these free certifications will help them be employable, and they'll give them the skill set that's so high in demand, especially by the Space Force. So that's how it all became a cohort together.
The cohort model was nice because it helped me to hold myself accountable. I knew I would go and talk to people and hear where they were at. I've gained skills that I've been able to really use, and I think it's really helped me to see projects in a bigger scale and be more successful at completing them.
I'm not gonna lie, this was a challenge, but you want a challenge, so at the end you can say, I did this, and I'm so proud of this. I worked hard, and I'm so proud of all the spouses that did it with me.
So far, over 3,500 military veterans, military spouses, and transitioning service members have gone through the program and been prepared to succeed in the digital economy.
So whether a military spouse is trying to learn a new skill or upskill, Career Forward will set them up for success.
Please welcome our next panel moderator, the Vice President of Military and Veterans Affairs at Fiserv, Meg Hendricks.
Hey y'all, I'm not going to be doing any dancing, so you're welcome. Also, I grew up in New Mexico and then met my husband while we were both stationed at Fort Bliss in Texas and now live in Virginia, but I kept my y'all. So, all right, so I have a whole panel joining me, so come on out, guys, y'all. We have Sean Passmore, who is the SVP and Head of Enterprise Military and Veteran Initiatives at Wells Fargo. We have Kevin Mulligan, who's the Senior Manager, U.S. Federal Policy and Outreach, Government Affairs and Public Policy, Google. Do you have that all on a card? All right. We have Megan Hill, who's a senior consultant and also leads investments into innovating MilFam experience at Deloitte. And Melissa Sanderson, who's the SVP Global Talent Acquisition Freedom Learning Group. So we have quite a brain trust here, and I'm excited to have a conversation with all of you. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So Sean, first question is for you. Recently, Wells Fargo stood up a hiring initiative called Homefront Hiring that encourages each lane of business to hire from the military spouse community. So can you talk to us about how that layered approach in this program sets military spouses up for success?
Sure, so it's a Homefront Heroes Hiring Program for military spouses, which is a bit of a mouthful, so Triple H is what we call it. We launched it last year on Military Spouse Appreciation Day, so it's still pretty new, but it's something we're very proud of. It is, you mentioned layered. I will say it is an incredibly complex program and very difficult to manage. And it was mentioned earlier, I think Mona said something about, there's no cookie cutter, right? No one size fits all solution for military spouse unemployment or underemployment. And so we recognize that. And so we built this program that it focuses on multiple talent profiles within the military spouse community. So there are some entry-level opportunities, there are mid-level opportunities, mid-career, there are senior and leadership opportunities, there are fully remote opportunities, there are some hybrid opportunities, and there are some, as you might expect in a large bank, some fully in-office opportunities as well. And so I think if you want to start any kind of program, whether it be a hiring program, a development program, a process improvement program, launch a new product or service, if you want it to fail miserably, it's easy. All you have to do is make sure it doesn't align to your business priorities. And so one of the obstacles we have faced is we say, okay, well, military spouses need remote jobs. But not every military spouse needs a remote job. And Wells Fargo is one company who is deliberate moving back into the office. And so this is why it was important for us to have this program, because we don't want a flavor of the month program. I want this to be a long-lasting, healthy program that's around for years and years and years. And so we need to meet military spouses where they are, meet their career needs, but also support our business priorities.
That's amazing. And I think, I'll offer you up, Sean, but I would say that employers in the room that are looking to do something similar should definitely talk to Sean, but that is a great approach, is making sure that it aligns with the business. Anytime, I think anyone here knows that if you say this will be good for business, then you're going to have more traction. So definitely take that approach. Thank you. So Melissa, we're going to jump over to you. So what internal strategies has Freedom Learning Group built to create career progression once a military spouse has been brought into the FLG ecosystem?
The ecosystem, that's like a buzzword lately, I have realized. So part of the magic, I think, of FLG and what we have created, first of all, we are a 100% virtual company. Our whole business model was built such to support the military spouse and the lifestyle that is required of them and me as an active duty military spouse. Any new employee, whether they are full-time, whether they are a contractor or freelancer with us, they have the opportunity to take a new hire orientation course. We are in the ed tech industry, so we tend to create courses out of everything. And then we offer a business resource group. We have a mentorship program. And then we kind of realized early on that we had a real opportunity to upskill our workforce in our own industry. And so what did we do? We created more courses. We have now a pathway for instructional designers, for accessibility experts. We realized around this time last year that we had tons of accessibility expert needs that were coming up in our content development to our clients, and we realized that the pool that we had for that was very small. So we created a course, and then what did that do? That course rolled out to our workforce, and our military spouses and our veterans were able to participate in that course, upskill in that area, and then that opened up more opportunities that they were able to apply for. We also offer a quality assurance course, and then in another vertical, we partner with Grow with Google, so plug for Kevin. And a really fun, cool fact about this is that the Grow with Google certifications, I think there's 5 of them that were created by Freedom Learning Group. And what does that mean? That means if you've taken the project management course, the UX UI design, I think there's one for tech support, data analytics, those were created by military spouses and veterans at Freedom Learning Group.
That's amazing. I also love that you plugged for Kevin and Google, because I think one of the most amazing things about working in this space is that we all are really willing to work together, even if we're competitors and we're competing for the same talent or even the same clients. We're still pretty willing to work together, share best practices. So that's amazing. Thank you for pointing that out. So, all right, Megan. Can you talk about creative internal initiatives like your Military Spouse Ambassador program that build a welcoming environment for military spouses in a corporate setting?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Meg. So I guess for a little bit of context here, at Deloitte, our overarching military spouse support program is called the Military Spouse Initiative, or MSI for short, if you need another acronym. But the ambassador program that you asked about is one of the 4 main components of what makes up MSI, right? So that's in addition to things like upskilling and professional development, targeted recruiting efforts for military spouses that we talked about. But what we realized at Deloitte is that in order to enable the success of recruiting and of retention, we really needed to be committing to making and cultivating a community that would be there specifically to support military spouses and their unique experience. And so the role of the ambassadors on kind of a regular basis is to do individual outreach to military spouses. And I should caveat here that, at Deloitte, we encourage military spouses to self-identify through voluntary survey. And once they have done so, we're able to invite them into that community and that support system. And so what the ambassadors are doing, right, is they're reaching out to military spouses who might be experiencing or navigating a military life cycle event, kind of in tandem with career. So, more often than not, our ambassadors are reaching out to spouses who have just received their PCS orders, who have just learned that their spouse may be deploying, right? And helping them to think through, well, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my family? And what does that mean for my career? And how do I then articulate what I need to my project leadership in order to continue growing there at the firm? And so what we find is that this is really empowering our spouses, again, to own their career. And I think the last thing that the ambassadors are doing really is educating as well. So continuing to grow and educate everyone at all levels of Deloitte, realizing that, of course, we're here to support our military spouses, but that really relies on a network much, much bigger than military spouses alone, right? And I think I'll say, of course, fundamentally empowering spouses to own their careers is what the ambassadors are doing. But what's really interesting to our business, right, is that these spouses are from all over the broad breadth of what Deloitte makes up. So that means that spouses, ambassadors, allies, when they're connecting and they're communicating, they're sharing across business lines, across geographies, what's working well for them, right? And that's underpinned by the fact that at Deloitte, although MSI is supported by HR, of course, we rely on HR, it doesn't live in HR. It lives in our businesses, right? And so, again, really interesting opportunity to make connections there across the business. And then I think last thing I'll say there, too, is that as we are furthering and evolving our military spouse initiative and our ambassador program, again, we're continuing to see the benefits truly for our business strategy. I think, we're talking about building community for our spouses, but I don't want to undercut the community that spouses bring with them. I mean, I couldn't guess what the contact list of everyone here in the room that's a military spouse looks like, and I've seen that in action, right? A military spouse who says, well, my friend works at Apple and just graduated with her MBA, I think they might be a good fit, right? Well, that's the type of quality, candidates that we want to bring into our business. So we're connecting, we're building, we're connecting to more talent, and they're also helping us to grow our business into new geographies, right? So if it's part of our strategy to be looking at more presence in Huntsville or in San Diego, well, why not rely on the spouses that we have in those places to be connecting with new clients, be connecting with new business opportunities there? And so, again, I say that just to show examples, right, of what we mean when we say hiring and investing in military spouses and investing in things like cultivating community that, you might not think are directly impacted to your business, really are, both in direct ways and down the line. So obviously continuing to evolve these programs and happy to continue sharing and collaborating and documenting those best practices. So grateful to be here today to do so.
That's amazing, and I'm going to take you up on that personally. So at least I learned something and now have an action item as well. So Kevin, Google, a brand nobody has ever heard of, has created a unique and intentional opportunity for military spouses to gain relevant and modern skill sets to take to the job market. Can you talk about why this type of support for the military community is important to Google, and what type of skill sets can employers expect when they hire military spouses who have completed your programs?
Sure. I think this room is a great example of the community that you're talking about, and we're really trying to tap into that community and tap into the value. I noted on the cover of the Wall Street Journal this morning was the picture of the midshipmen who just climbed Herndon and are no longer plebes. Today's the 30-year anniversary of doing that myself. I know there's one Naval Academy person in the room, so a little beat Army for those of you who need it.
Beat Navy.
And so the reason I bring that up is that those now newly commissioned, newly minted officers are about to step off into their career. Just like the enlisted who raise their right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, they do so at a point in their life where you're kind of full of yourself, right? You're pursuing your own aspirations. And as you move along, you make life decisions. And one of those incredible life decisions, probably the most important decision of your life, is who you choose to be your life partner. And that life partner serves with you. And I'm speaking to a room that knows this intimately. And we've heard the stories today, and I think they're just so compelling. Each story, while new and fresh because of the delivery of the individual, is not new and fresh because we've seen this movie over and over again. Picking up, Control-Alt-Delete your career and go off and try and support your spouse, your partner, your best friend in life, your life partner. You're willing to sacrifice your career. So at Google, we recognize that sacrifice. And it is not taken lightly. And we also are looking across the board at just the all-volunteer force. This year is the 50-year anniversary. I'll date myself. I'm going to turn 50 this year. So in my lifetime, we have had an all-volunteer military. And that is at risk because we are recruiting from now over 80% of the people who join the military have a direct tie to the military. That means that it's family members, the community. This is where we come back to the community. It is the community that needs to be energized to tell your story about your service. And believe me, and you know this, the spouses serve. One of the reasons that as you progress along your career of getting in, getting out or staying in, am I getting promoted? What's my earning potential on the outside? What job opportunities do I have in my career path? What job opportunities do I have on the outside? And are my kids going to school? What year are they? Are they about to graduate from high school? Are we going to pick them up and move? Does my wife, does my husband, does my partner have a good job? Are they making more money than me? Should I stay in or should I go? That's the question that's being asked. The Google Career Certificate is designed for the spouse, for the family, for the whole service member, which is the service member, their family, their dependents, their whole picture, so that they can be empowered with a marketable skill that is transferable. And that ultimately is the value proposition that we're all trying to get to, is to unlock the value of all the people that are tied to the military service and allow them to bring a little extra money in, right? We were talking about how the hiring rate is 88%, how the average income is $70,000. Imagine if you are an E2, E3, E4, and your spouse is bringing in 70 grand. You going to stay or you going to go? I think I'm going to stay. I mean, it makes my jump pay or my flight pay look a little bit underrated, but I'm going to be super motivated to focus on my military occupational specialty and my service because I know that that's one variable that I don't have to worry about. And as a family unit, we know that that's going to move with us, and we don't need to, sacrifice the financial hardships of moving. So, short.
That's awesome.
There you go.
Thanks. All right. So now I have a challenge for the panel: 20 to 30 seconds max. All right. So, can you discuss any of the HOH military spouse programs that you participate in and how that's had an impact? Like that experience has had an impact on your hiring and success in hiring military spouses. And we'll start here and go down the road.
Okay, I will answer your question, but I need to revisit Triple H real quickly. So I mentioned how complex the program was, and I forgot the most important thing. So it's focused on active duty military spouses. And so while we say not every active spouse needs remote work, we do know that they do require career portability and flexibility. And so Triple H is designed that at that point in a military spouse's life where they may not be able to work in the office, Triple H does offer the career portability support that they need. With regard to our partnership with HOH, we've participated in career summits for years and years and years, but as we've been more deliberate about military spouse hiring and with the launch of Triple H, we have been increasingly active in Amplify over the last year, and we're looking forward to hosting Amplify events in the future, maybe this year, for sure next year. And we rely on HOH, or military spouse career-seeking clients, as a viable pipeline for our military spouse hiring program. And then beyond hiring, we sponsored HOH's Enrich platform, which is a personal and family financial wellness platform. So we're able to help military families increase savings, pay down debt, improve credit scores, and really just be better prepared for the important financial decisions and challenges that they'll face just associated with military life in general, especially career transition.
Kevin.
I would say that the way that we can best support is by continuing to bring Google Career Certificates online. We'll have some announcements coming out about upcoming certificates, and I think that this is a marketable credential that you take out into the workforce, and it's recognized, and it gets you in the door and opens up opportunities for you. The other piece that we're doing is that we're partnered with Onward Ops. They've just procured 200,000 workspace licenses to help, as they estimate 200,000 veterans will transition out of this service this year. This is for veterans, family members, and caregivers to give them the tools that they need to join that community that we've all been talking about. Give them the tools to collaborate, network, work on their resumes, find those jobs, find those cohorts and those groups, those advocacy groups that they want to be a part of. And there's also some corporate sponsorship in there that we're excited about. So I'd encourage you all, there's an opportunity to become a sponsor of that. If you're interested, check out Onward Ops.
We'll applaud all of these efforts discussed so far. Deloitte is really proud to be collaborating with Hiring Our Heroes in support of the Department of Defense in standing up the new fellowship pilot program. Luckily, Crystal already spoke to this before, and there's a call out in your material. So I'll use my time instead to say, really encourage spouses in the room, again, to continue expressing interest in the pilot. And then for the employers here today, there's a really awesome selection of employers who are receiving resumes. Encourage you to take that next step and to really bring a fellow into your business, both because of the business imperatives that I spoke to earlier, but also because we know it is a direct tie to military readiness. So implore you to continue evaluating those resumes as they come in and to accept a fellow into your business.
Okay, now I'm going to plug HOH. So Freedom Learning Group, we have the opportunity to participate in the Amplify program every single month. That means every single month for over 2 years, we have shown up at Amplify and we present on remote work to a room full of military spouses. HOH for us is really a one-stop shop. We participate in those Amplify summits, workshops for career-minded military spouses. We participate in the online virtual career fairs, the career summits. I know a ton of them are escaping me, but they just bring us such an incredible talent pipeline. I just implore you, if you are an employer here today, to take advantage of those programs that they offer, because no one's doing it better, I'll tell you that, than HOH. And just to give you a quick example, on Monday, I interviewed 2 scientists, can't make it up. I interviewed 2 scientists that I recently met, one last week at an Amplify event and one a couple of months ago. And by Tuesday, they were both signed on to statements of work to develop content in their professional career field. Where else are you going to interview 2 scientists on a Monday and then hand them jobs on a Tuesday? The work is self-paced, it's 100% remote. We're just handing the power back to our military spouses to own the development and own their own career, which I think is pretty special.
Awesome, thanks guys. And I know I speak for myself and the whole panel that we're all willing to have discussions about the programs that we have and share our best practices. So if you're an employer in the room or whoever you are in the room, we're happy to connect on LinkedIn and chat about that. Okay, now we have audience participation. So pull out your QR code. And if you are online, it should be showing up for you to scan it there. And we would like you to answer, which HOH programs have you participated in as an employer or job seeker? And thank you guys. Thank you guys.
And now, a special message from the United States Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin.
Hello, everyone, and thanks to the team at Hiring Our Heroes for the chance to share a few words at this year's Military Spouse Summit. Military spouses don't always wear a uniform, but they serve right alongside our troops, and this team works to help our country's outstanding military spouses find new jobs when their families have to move from duty station to duty station. And I deeply appreciate all that you do to lift up our military families. As Secretary of Defense, one of my top priorities is taking care of our people. And that means improving the force's quality of life in many ways, and increasing opportunities for military spouses is essential. It's the right thing to do, and it makes a big difference for our recruitment, retention, and readiness. And so that's why, over the past few years, we've made it easier to transfer professional licenses from state to state. We've established career accelerators to help spouses gain new skills. And we've expanded the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, which connects military spouses to job opportunities. To date, more than 600 partner organizations have hired more than 250,000 military spouses. And that number should only grow. We also understand that the careers of all DoD parents depend on accessible, affordable, and high-quality child care. And so that's why we're continuing to make significant investments in our child care facilities. And we're working hard to attract more talented child care professionals. And we're expanding programs like the Military Child Care in Your Neighborhood initiative to make child care better and easier and more affordable. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished so far, but we still got so much more to do to stand by America's military spouses. And DoD can't do it alone. So we're glad to work closely with like-minded organizations like all of you. Military spouses are pillars who hold up our community. Their skills and experiences make us stronger. So we must give military spouses all of the resources and support that they need to thrive. That's our responsibility and indeed our honor. Thank you.
And now, to moderate our next panel, please welcome comedian Ashley Gutermuth.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What are we doing? Hiring Our Heroes. Lighten up a bit. Woo! Thank you so much for having me. My name is Ashley Gutermuth. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a military spouse. If any of you have seen my videos online, I basically spend all day trying to get my husband fired. That is my job. I have failed. Today's panel is on leveraging collective ingenuity in a globally dispersed environment to diversify professional networks. I can talk to you in acronyms all day long. I didn't know what that meant. So I'm going to distill it down. It's how can we all work together to make everyone stronger? And I'm going to bring out a panel of superstars that are making it happen. Can you guys please come out here? All right, let's do this. Please welcome everybody. And I am going to, there you go. We got two mics in one. We're making it happen. The mic jingle. I am going to introduce them in the respectful way that they deserve, in the only way that I know how. I'm going to read their bios as though I were a wrestling announcer, because that's what you guys deserve, right? That's right. All right, up first, she is an author. She's an advocate, an entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in media relations, where she excels at creating influential personal brands and promoting media visibility. In 2020, she founded She PR, leveraging her advocacy and media expertise as a retired Marine spouse to uplift women's voices and narratives. Through She PR, she empowers thought leaders, ensuring their perspectives are represented and celebrated. Please give a round of applause for Lakeisha Cole. Heck yeah. All right. Up next, she's a dynamic program and project manager professional with over 15 years of experience and extensive success in diversity recruiting for some of the world's most recognized brands. Experience includes developing and implementing programs to drive diversity of candidate pipelines, cultivating strong relationships with community partners to support program initiatives, and collaborating effectively with cross-functional personnel, including talent acquisition, human resources, and senior leadership to ensure success of corporate objectives. She is a proud daughter of a 38-year retired veteran that has a strong commitment to continued service to the military community that she grew up in and supports through employment and community engagement efforts. Please welcome Lacey Craig. Fantastic. And finally, we have a similar last name. I have sympathy. Our final panelist, I was going to say contestant. She is the vice president of the Federal Practice for Unite Us, an organization focused on improving cross-sector collaboration to effectively meet the whole health and well-being needs of military service members, veterans, families, and caregivers. As the daughter of an Army combat veteran, member of a multi-generational military family, and a surviving caregiver, Elizabeth is personally and professionally committed to improving the lives of those who serve our country. Please welcome Elizabeth Baranshub. Okay. Now I will sit and get my act together and be a real adult. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's just kick this off. Lakeisha, personal branding, that's your thing, right?
Yes.
All right, and that has been identified as the master key to success. Can you tell everyone, just discuss personal branding and how to achieve a successful outcome in the digital era?
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. I feel like we should be on The Price is Right or something. But personal branding, it used to be considered a luxury, right? It used to be that thing that only business owners had to worry about. But thanks to technology, personal branding has now become a necessity in today's interconnected world. And so every day I feel like I'm learning about a new tech thing, right? A new platform, a new app, whatever the next new thing is. But even with the many changes, one of the most significant is the rising of personal branding. We're all now able to kind of shape the public image or perception that we want to portray, particularly when it comes to career development and progression. So what exactly is personal branding? Well, it really involves creating a unique professional identity that sets you apart from your peers. So it's your coherent message about your skills, about your passions, about your values around your zone of genius, the thing that you're extraordinary at. It's your digital footprint. It's the things that you like, that you share, that you comment on social media. A strong personal branding not only makes you memorable, but it also builds trust and credibility. And in PR, we like to say it builds your like, no trust factor. And that's what really opens the door for endless opportunities. Now, the internet has really erased geographical boundaries, right? And so you can really be excellent from anywhere. But with that, it also has created fierce competition, whether that's in business or whether that's in the job market. And by taking time to kind of shape and define what you want that public image to look like, you can create a digital footprint that accentuates your strengths and your expertise. And so how do we do this, right? We do this by being authentic. Authenticity is the cornerstone of personal branding. That's really embracing who you are and being genuine in your communication and really just staying true to your values. And we say in business, people often buy from people first. Well, the same logic kind of applies here. You want people to connect with real stories and your genuine personalities. And then you want to maintain some consistency, whether that's on social media, whether you're running a blog, or any type of professional networking platforms. You want to show up consistently so that the people that you're trying to attract, they can see what your strengths are. And then, of course, you want to leverage digital platforms. LinkedIn, of course, is where you want to be. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is well curated because that really acts as your digital portfolio. And then, of course, you want to provide value. Personal brand is not always necessarily about self-promotion. It is about providing value, but you want to strategically know when to be a resource and when to be a sales pitch. And then, of course, building your network and then making sure you're staying current within technology and whatever the trends are in your industry.
Fantastic. Be yourself and build each other up. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what you're hearing.
Heck yeah. All right, Lacey. Employer branding is vital, especially in the military spouse community. We want to know that the company we invest our time in is military ready. How does your company ensure its brand includes military inclusivity? Ready?
I'm ready. Thank you for the question. At T-Mobile, it really starts with the imagery that we project on all of our social campaigns. That's actual veteran and military spouses that are employed with us that we're using. The stories that we're sharing to really be testimonials about experiences that our military spouses and veterans have within the company. I think it's really important for businesses to show up the way that they say they are. And that way the military community understands who they can trust and how that organization is showing up in the community. We really pride ourselves on developing different employment opportunity programs through our internships, our returnship program, and then of course our partnership with Hiring Our Heroes with the fellowship program. It's really important also that employers have inclusion efforts within the company. So it's not just about getting hired and the external brand, but it's about the internal brand and experience. T-Mobile has a really great employee resource network. It's our VAN network, where veterans, military spouses, and allies can really join together to share in their experiences and be part of the community. It's really important for us to do business with community partners that represent the communities that we're serving. And part of that also is how we can save you money. Everyone loves saving money. So T-Mobile offers a military rate plan so that we can have those cost savings extended to our military families also. It's really important that T-Mobile has established itself as a brand that military families can trust and rely on within their own communities.
Fantastic. Yeah, you had mentioned to me, it was something like you're doing well by doing good.
Yeah, we really thrive to do the right thing always.
Yeah.
We are unstoppable together.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have, I'm going to put you on the spot, do you have any military spouse success stories within your company? You're doing all these initiatives. Do you have anything?
Well, we only have 8 minutes, so yes, we do. We actually have a lot of success stories. I think the one that I am the most proud of, she's sitting in the audience right now. We were able to engage in the Military Spouse Fellowship Program with Hiring Our Heroes about 6 months ago. And over that 6-month period, we have brought on 7 military spouse fellows. Our first one getting placed in a role outside of her fellowship. And it's been so great to see just the thriving career advancement of these military spouses once they are put into the roles. I always say that any civilian employee that we bring on really has large shoes to fill and to keep up with our military spouses that are doing that job.
Heck yeah. Nobody does it better than military spouses, am I right? That's right. Heck yeah. Okay, Elizabeth. Community building is a key component of military spouse life. Will you talk to us about how the Unite Us platform creates community through an ecosystem of care and how employment can be an entry point into that ecosystem?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I'd be happy to talk about it. So sitting in the audience today, I heard a lot of people, a lot of great advocates get up and talk about the associated implications of military spouse unemployment, talking about financial insecurity, food insecurity, and all of the other co-occurring needs that surround employment. Like many complex issues, military spouse unemployment doesn't happen in a silo. There's a lot of other factors around it: transportation, career coaching, peer engagement, all of those pieces. And what Unite Us does is we connect local and national resources into a common ecosystem to connect individuals to their community and to their community resources in a way that takes that burden off the individual to access the resources that they need so that they don't have to tell their story every time they walk through a door.
Heck, there are a lot of resources available, but it's so hard, especially when you're exhausted, to wade through all of the information and try to figure out what it is you need and who's reputable. So I feel like Unite Us, what a fantastic organization that you have, and I think that's wonderful.
Thank you for that. I think part of it is making sure that you're addressing the whole health and whole needs of an individual. when a person comes through the door and shares that they are needing assistance in employment, there's an opportunity there to identify other needs that they have and figure out how you can support them in other facets of their life to really make a family impact and a generational impact on them and their entire community.
Yeah, so true. It's so important. Okay, this next question, I'm going to start with Lacey. So I asked if you were ready before, so you had to stay ready. Technology in the recruiting and hiring space is ever changing. What do employers and job seekers alike need to do to keep up with the tides?
Yeah, I think coming from a technology company, I would share that, technology has really enabled both job seekers and employers the opportunity to post and apply for jobs around the world. Think about it. You can be on vacation in Cancun and then you can be applying for a job that you can be interviewing for when you get back. So I think it's really important that recruiters are trained on the new platforms and job sourcing platforms to be able to understand different skill sets of candidates, how they apply to those specific roles. And then for candidates, do your homework, because every time you log on to LinkedIn, there's suggestions about jobs and companies that you should be following or applying to. And I think just understanding how those companies align with your personal values and how you want to show up within that company is really critical. Acting fast, because we all know in this age of where you can apply for a job with 2 clicks on your phone, you really want to be that competitive candidate when you are applying for that role. And I think it's also important to understand that the technology platforms will continue to advance. So how do you keep yourself really available as a candidate? So engaging in self-ID, I think, is really important so that you are representing yourself and how you want to be sought out by those recruiters that are looking at your job profiles online.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And when we were backstage, I asked Lacey, I said, do you like working for T-Mobile? And her eyes lit up. I think we all, as military spouses, as companies that are supporting military spouses and veterans, let's have them have jobs that make their eyes light up, that make them excited so that they want to come in every day, so that they think of the things and the changes, the positive changes that will happen in your companies if you have people like that in those roles. And they are out there. Military spouses are amazing. Military spouse Lakeisha, what do you think about that question? How can we keep up with the tides?
So to piggyback off of what she said, definitely keeping up to date on the latest technological advancements, whether that's adopting tools that can streamline your hiring process, whether it's AI-powered candidate screening, remote work opportunities, and virtual interviewing platforms. But I will also say, as for employers, your online presence serves as your first impression and for potential candidates. And so it's really important that your company profiles are in sync, up to date across all platforms that really convey your missions and your values and your culture accurately.
Absolutely, that's huge. People are paying attention. They're reading the comments. They're looking. So make sure it's cleaned up. Elizabeth, what do you think?
I think that what's most important as far as connecting to the community and how to better support somebody going through that process is to make sure that every door is open to them. Wherever they're ready to enter, that's one of the things that we focus on at Unite Us. If they start their journey with a local career coach who's providing them with some advice around their social media presence or their resume or their career path, making sure that that individual is equipped to be able to help facilitate access to care and other resources is important, and just as important as making sure that the representative that's at the local food pantry has the same access to the same system to be able to facilitate those referrals. So making sure the doors are open and access is available.
Absolutely, that's huge. All right, we have about a minute left. I want to speed round. We're going to go down the line. Where do you want your businesses to grow? What's the dream? Lakeisha, She PR, what's the dream?
Hire more military spouses, of
Heck
course.
yeah, look at that.
My
That's
agency is powered by other military spouse-owned brands, whether we're hiring them for copywriting, SEO services, web development, whatever it is. My goal is to be able to generate more business so that I can pour that back into other military spouses.
That's wonderful. I love that. All right, Lacey.
Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance to my peers. My goal is that our roles are progressed into a different role within the company, because that would mean that hiring military spouses and veterans is a natural part of the progression of hiring, that it is something that is integrated into every hiring manager's best practice, and that it's something that maybe we continue to advise on in a different role, but that it is part of every hiring manager's goals at the beginning of the year to integrate into programs like the fellowships or returnships or direct hiring opportunities for our military community.
Okay, Elizabeth.
We'd like to put resources in the hands of every military spouse and military family member in the country and Oconus. And I'd be remiss if I didn't provide a plug for how military spouses can access resources right now. We have connected networks inside of 44 states. And if you visit unitus.com/networks, you can find the communities inside of your own state that are already connecting care. Find one access point that you're comfortable with and find the rest of your journey to resources there.
Fantastic. Hear that? We're taking over the world. All right, everybody. In your binders, we have that QR code. We want to know what platforms you use to recruit or search for jobs: LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, or Monster. Click that QR code. And we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for having us. I want to leave you with this. We all are doing a great job, but everybody in here, we need to raise our game. You know why? Military families are counting on us. We going to do it? Yeah. All right. Thank you all.
Please welcome to the stage the president of Hiring Our Heroes, Eric Eversole, and the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, Ashish Vazirani.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, music hasn't stopped. There we go. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I just thought I'd establish a couple of ground rules here first. I will not be dancing, and I am not going to be as exciting as Ashley. So I don't know about you, Mr. Secretary. Any dancing?
I'm going to start.
But we will do our best to have fun with this panel, and I want to say, as we kick things off, how excited I am to be a part of this fireside chat, and just mention that we've had the good fortune of knowing each other for a number of years now, as you've been in various roles in both the nonprofit and the government community. And when you were nominated and then confirmed by the Senate, I couldn't think of a better person to be in the position than you. So really honored to be here.
Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it.
And so this first one's really a throwaway question in some ways, but it's really important because, again, that experience of service, not only in the nonprofit community and in the government sector, has made you very well equipped for this job. And could you give everyone a little bit of background as to your history and your years of service?
Thank you. And before I do that, I just want to thank you for what you do here at Hiring Our Heroes, and particularly the people in the audience, all that you do for military families, for military spouses, for veterans. The work that you do helps us to fulfill the value proposition for service, and that's critical. And particularly as we talk about this time where we're struggling on the accession side, knowing that we have a community of people who are trying to support and are supporting our service members and their families is critical. And so thank you. Thanks for what you do, and thanks for the inspirational work. So a little bit about my background, and when Eric said he might ask me to share a little bit about my background, I said, well, we only have 15 minutes in the session, so where I'll start is, and probably the basis for this is that I'm part of a military family, like many of you. I was not born into a military family. I actually was more of a veteran family. My stepdad was a blinded Marine from the Vietnam era. And so I grew up around a group of advocates who supported the military community. I then served on active duty. I served for about 7 years. Then I got out and spent a little over 2 decades as a management consultant, working on sales and marketing issues in the pharmaceutical industry and the technology industry. But during that time, what that allowed me to do is develop some skills, and then I had an opportunity to apply those skills in the nonprofit sector, doing some pro bono work with military service organizations. And what that led to was a realization that kind of work was much more fulfilling for me, and so I had an opportunity to shift to full-time work in the nonprofit sector specifically, and it wasn't just to go into the nonprofit sector, but really to go support military families. And so then I had an opportunity to go to the Armed Services YMCA, and that led an opportunity to go to the National Military Family Association. I see my colleague Bessa here, who's really a great partner there. And along the way, when the Biden administration came about and I got a call and asked would I be willing to serve, the opportunity to serve in an administration that is really taking the importance of taking care of people, and Secretary Austin, as he indicated in his video, that's one of his priorities. And so to have an opportunity to do that is how I landed in the role.
Well, I really appreciate that background, because I think it's really important, because it does impact how, from your lens, both in the nonprofit and the consulting space, the challenges that a lot of our military spouses face. And what I've also appreciated about our friendship and partnership over the years is our mutual love of data, right? And how it really guides the decisions and should guide the decisions of that. In fact, I remember some Saturday conversations that we shouldn't talk too much about data when we should be on the treadmill or doing something else, but we're talking about data. But on your end, as the Deputy Undersecretary, and as you see the data from that lens, what are you seeing about military spouse employment?
I guess what I'll say is, unfortunately, I'm seeing the same thing I was seeing 5 years ago. Spouse unemployment is still significantly higher than the rest of the employed, the population, and that's a disappointment. We've made and through this community made significant impact on veterans employment, and we just haven't had the same degree of progress on military spouse employment, and so that's part of what we're seeing is that. We're still hovering at that 21, 24%, depending on whose data you're looking at. But, in our survey data, the most recent data is 21% unemployment. The fact that it's still taking months for people to find a job, and that's not months 2, that's months 4 and 5 for military spouses to find a job. The fact that when military spouses are finding jobs, that they still consider themselves to be underemployed. And so these are the challenges we face. And so and there's no way to sugarcoat that. We are, I guess we're holding but that's not good enough, right? We have to change the trajectory. And so we are trying to do as much as we can from our end on creating programs that will help to place spouses in employment. We appreciate the partnership of the team here on doing that, but we recognize that we have to do more, but it won't be DoD by ourselves. It really is in partnership with the corporate and nonprofit community.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think we all feel like we've made progress over the last 5 years, but when we look at the numbers, it still tells a very stark story of the challenges that many military spouses face. You mentioned your boss a couple of minutes ago, and I know that, and we saw from the video that military spouse employment and how we take care of our families is really important from his lens. And in fact, in March of this year, he issued a report about strengthening our support to service members and their families that really underscored his commitment to the issue and how important it is to the Department of Defense. Can you talk a little bit about that report?
Sure. So there was a memo, and in fact, I'll go back if I may. So the Secretary issued a memo back in September of 22, really focusing on support for military families and strengthening military families and taking care of our people. And there were 4 aspects of that. One was around making moves easier. The other aspect was around supporting families, and in particular, some of the things related to military spouses was how do we ensure the financial security of families. And so there in September was when we announced that we were going to launch the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Program, and I'm just delighted to see folks from Deloitte here who've been critical in building that program and then the partnership with Hiring Our Heroes in launching that program. So we announced the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Program, and then in another iteration of the Taking Care of People initiative, and this is something that will be ongoing throughout the administration, is finding these initiatives and putting these programs in place. Just in March, we announced the expansion of the MyCAA, the Career Advancement Program. And so those are the types of things that we're looking at. Within those Taking Care of People, one of the things we recognize is a enabler of spouse employment for military families is childcare. And so there we provided a minimum 50% discount to a child development associate, child development center employee, so that their first child would get at least a 50% discount. So we're trying to build capacity in the childcare system by at least making sure that we're fully staffed.
And you mentioned the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Program. I refuse to use the acronym. So the pilot is really making a tremendous difference. It was launched in January. And you want to talk a little bit about the impact that you're seeing in this first, 5 months now? Are we into this for 5 months?
Yeah, so we launched in January, so we're closing on 5 months. The response has been tremendous. We've had probably 2,500 applications submitted, 600 that are completed, 400 that have made it through the vetting process. And I think that's one of the really great things about the program, the way it's set up. And for the employers, when someone makes it to that point where their resume is posted, that's a very well vetted candidate. From their background, from their interviewing capability, from the skills that they bring. So there's a lot of pre-vetting that happens. And then, so for those candidates, we've seen now 130 military spouses placed into fellowship programs. We're already seeing a very high conversion rate to full-time employment. And so that's tremendous. And that's ultimately what we want to get. What we know and what we've learned, I think what this community has learned, is that when organizations get a sense of and understand the talent that resides in the military spouse community, they just want to hire more. And so the challenge for us is getting more employers engaged in the program. And that's really where I'd say if I have a a call to action for this group is, and I know many of the organizations here are already engaged in the program, and some of those organizations have multiple military spouses on the Spouse Fellowship Program, USAA, First Command, amongst others. And so we just need your help in spreading the word that there is this program available, and you know, goodness gracious, you know, to try before you buy, right? You know, frankly, it's, you know, that's what we're doing, is we're giving you the opportunity to expose your organizations and your teams to this amazing talent pool who can then come join you, and you know, that gives the opportunity for those military spouses to build a set of skills.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm going to echo the special thanks to USAA and First Command. Hosted already 8 fellows, I believe, military spouse fellows. First Command said 7 or 8. It's making a tremendous difference. If you start to talk to military spouses and see the impact on their lives, and taking away the uncertainty of the job search and the move, it really makes a tremendous difference. And by the way, 70% of these jobs so far have been remote. And I'm going to second the challenge just for a second. For those companies that are watching or not, or who are here that aren't hiring through the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Program, why not? Why not? We have every skill set imaginable in this incredibly talented pool of candidates, and you need talent, and we have it. So we really need to fix that one. And I know that together we're going to do it. It's going to make a big difference and be a game changer long term, and we'll get there. Got just a couple minutes left. Where do you want to see military spouse employment in 5 years? Maybe 2 years, 3 years?
Well, as I said earlier, I think we have to change the trajectory, right? So we have to create an inflection point. And so we have to get the spouse unemployment rate declining. We have to make sure that spouses feel as though that they are gainfully and fully employed, and growing their skills. So where would I like to see ourselves 5 years from now? I'd love to see military spouse employment at the same level that we see veterans unemployment, which is below the general unemployment rate. That should be our benchmark, because military spouses are a extremely talented pool. In fact, we know that military spouses their education level is higher than their peers. And so there's absolutely every reason, if you just take it on that, just education alone, but then you take all of the other skills and experiences that military spouses bring based on the fact that what they have to cope with, to contend with, right, as they support their service member, their spouse. I'd be remiss if I didn't also shout out that, you know, there are 93,000 dual military couples. 7% of the force are dual military. So 93% of the force, or 7% of the force, are military service members and military spouses, right? And so we recognize that there's a tremendous amount of talent, and so it's our objective to make sure that we get to a point where we're below the national unemployment level.
I really appreciate your time, Mr. Secretary. And again, one last pitch. If you're not participating in the Military Spouse Career Accelerator Program, please see Crystal Cochran. Crystal, you want to raise your hand? I'm going to put her on the spot. It's easy. You can't find better talent. And while Rosemary said I can't say free, it is at no cost. So please get involved. Let's make a difference together. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Please welcome the CEO of Dog Tag Bakery, Megan Ogilvie.
Like the required dance moves up here. Hi everybody, it's such a pleasure to be here today. My name is Megan Ogilvie and I'm the CEO for Dog Tag. Dog Tag is a nonprofit where we run a 5-month fellowship program where we recruit veterans that have service-connected disabilities, military spouses, and military caregivers to help redefine purpose and rebuild community. So the course of the 5 months, they earn and graduate with a certificate of business administration from either Georgetown University or Loyola out of Chicago. We use our bakery. Has anyone here been to DogTag yet? Bakery? If you're new, come on by. We're right in Georgetown. We're like 2 miles away, 35 minutes in traffic. Don't go during the evening. So at the bakery, though, we use this as a living business school. So we use, you work with exactly everyone that works at the organization. So you work with our chef to develop a product, our catering team for packaging and shipping, our marketing team to develop a market plan, and our finance team. So you literally pitch a product to DogTag. So we just started a Chicago cohort in January last year, and the product they just pitched just about 3 weeks ago was build your own deep dish cookie. And they built out this beautiful idea. So we really use this widget to understand. The third is networking. Fourth is the ability to build a business plan. And the fifth is wellness, which I think we all here today have heard so much about. So it's such a pleasure to be up here. And one of the most exciting things is coming here today is we have about 4 alumni of DogTag's fellowship program here today, all fully employed, either their own business or back in the workforce. And that is the greatest testament to the work that we do and how proud we are. One of the first partners that we ever had in cohort 1 in 2014 was a Small Business Administration. Barb Carson and Ray Milano came to DogTag with our pilot program and started talking to our fellows about the access to small business, the resources, SCORE program, and since that day, we've had small SBA part of our fellowship. So I'm exceptionally honored today and grateful for the opportunity to introduce the Honorable Isabella Castillas Guzman. The administrator was appointed in March of 2021 by the Biden administration as the 27th administrator, and she oversees, can you imagine this, 33 million small businesses and entrepreneurs. And we just heard about 12 million just applied this year with submitting for new business access, which if you can imagine that job, it's no small feat. As a young woman, though, she started young, so her father ran various veterinarian business which she worked at. She herself started her own business, helped also advise those that were starting their own and trying to find their own American dream. So serving as previously as SBA's Deputy Chief of Staff in the Obama-Biden administration, led the California Office of Small Business Advocate. And today she's helping scale SBA and improve and innovate startups through capital, contracting, network building, technical training, digital tools. And here she is today to speak to us. We're so grateful and honored to have the Administrator, Isabella Castillas Guzman.
All right, well, good afternoon. It's a long intro music. Well, good afternoon. I really appreciate the Chamber of Commerce and our great partnership, supporting our troops, our veterans, and our military families. And thank you as well to Megan of DogTag Bakery. They've been a longtime partner of the SBA, and they're not only doing entrepreneurship, they're teaching entrepreneurship, and it's amazing to see their work grow over these years. It's great to be here, though, as part of the 7th annual Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Employment Summit. This marks the 3rd year in a row that SBA has partnered with Hiring Our Heroes to share with you the incredible pathways to prosperity that entrepreneurship can offer. Life in the military can be challenging for military spouses. I know from my own family history, my grandmother had 3 young boys, including my dad, at home when my grandfather was killed in service in World War II. She picked up and built a commercial cleaning business of her own. And full circle, I like to say, she ended up getting a contract to clean a military base in Texas. And so she is probably one of the bravest women I've ever known. And she has had fortitude. I know and appreciate that your role supporting your partner in military service doesn't always align with the traditional job. You're required to have that extra flexibility to hold your families together. And I know that continuous job searching and underemployment are systemic issues that you can face. But being a military spouse also produces valuable skills like knowing how to manage multiple priorities and making hard choices, having agility and resilience. In my world of entrepreneurship, those are superpowers. In addition, you have to be strong, creative, and determined. Those are critical success factors that lead to strong small businesses. You know, entrepreneurship really puts the pen in your hand so that you can write your own story of employment and you can imagine the possibilities. And it's something that President Biden always talks about, that America is about possibilities, great possibilities. Small business ownership enables you to build a business that works for your family, for your situation, and you come up with the idea to solve the real world problem or fill a gap in your neighborhood or your community. You know, whether that's creating a product that you launch on an e-commerce site that you can sell from anywhere and sell everywhere around the world, you know, or if it's instead a service that's flexible and can be mobile and agile and moved to multiple locations, or frankly just launching that bricks and mortar business in the new city that you may be relocated to along Main Street. There's truly endless possibilities. Entrepreneurship is the challenge of creating your own job, your own employment, and it's, you know, having a dream or passion that makes that challenge more of an opportunity. And the Biden-Harris administration really believes in creating an economy that works for all Americans. You know, and that's especially, as the president says, for our hardworking families and our hardworking small businesses as well. And President Biden has recognized that, unfortunately, not all of our great ideas get the support and the resources that they need or the level playing field on which to compete on and succeed. And that's not good for our nation's economy or global competitiveness, as we rely on our small businesses to create jobs and grow our economy. The Biden-Harris administration has prioritized small businesses, and we are experiencing a small business boom right now. So there are many people stepping into the opportunity of entrepreneurship. Since he took office, there's been 12 million new business applications, and each one of those is really a sign of hope as businesses look to start. And it's been women who have been leading the charge, as they have been for the last 10 years of startup rates. And the US SBA is really the federal agency that works hard every day to try to ensure that those American dreams of business ownership can be realized, can be supported. We aim to fill the gaps in the marketplace so that the historically underserved individuals, and that includes those who are facing those unique challenges and barriers in our community, like military spouses, can overcome so that they can start and grow and build resilient businesses. And that really starts with building connections. I love the bakery story that Ray Milano, who I don't know if he's here today, but one of my great employees at the SBA who leads in our Office of Veterans Business Development along with Tim Green, but that they were able to connect to incredible resources to develop and build prosperous enterprise. And that's what today is really about. Our Office of Veterans Business Development within the SBA empowers aspiring entrepreneurs as well as established firms in the military community by providing them with that specialized counseling and making sure that they can connect to the full suite of resources at the SBA, which includes capital access, revenue growth opportunities through contracting, international trade, or digital e-commerce, as well as local networks of small business centers and disaster relief from recovery. President Biden expanded funding for our veterans through the SBA by increasing our footprint of our Veterans Business Outreach Centers. Our partners on the ground now growing from 22 to 28 across the country to help connect the veteran community as well as our military spouses with the resources of the SBA. And we also offer, of course, Boots to Business and Boots to Business Reboot, which were programs launched when I was in the administration of Obama-Biden. And it's intensive trainings and workshops to really upskill our transitioning service members and our military spouses so that they can launch their business successfully. We try to meet you where you are and everywhere that you are at the SBA. And in the case of Boots to Business, that means it could be global. We follow the DoD footprint so that we can provide these classes everywhere and virtual as well. Beyond those military-focused trainings, you can access the SBA's expert business consulting services across multiple networks. There's over 1,600 centers now across the country, thanks to increases through the American Rescue Plan. So we have our Veterans Business Outreach Centers, our Small Business Development Centers, Women's Business Centers, community navigators, including funding at a national scale for the Institute of Veterans and Military Families, who are customizing their services services to reach all of our military families. And then, of course, our SCORE mentors. You know, SBA supports this comprehensive network of support organizations so that they can coach you at any stage of the business that you're in, as well as help you face any challenge or opportunity that's in the marketplace. And that could be anything from helping to prepare loan applications to financial management, marketing plans, you name it. And every year we help entrepreneurs secure the funding that they need to cover startup expenses or access working capital to grow their businesses or fund the purchase of equipment or a building. You know, we are transforming our capital programs currently and expanding our network of lenders to better serve all of our entrepreneurs. And we do offer fee relief for military spouses on select SBA loans to make that program more accessible. You know, I think that what I often tell people is that the key is arming yourself with the toolbox of resources if you're going to pursue entrepreneurship so that you can successfully launch and grow. And I know we have a great success story here with us today, Jalan Hall Johnson, who's the owner of the Sassy Biscuit in Billings, Montana, with the second location in Dover, New Hampshire. And when her husband, who's a U.S. Marine, received new orders and they had to relocate to Montana, she struggled to find work in the new city. You know, eventually, she bravely decided to pursue her dream of starting her own business, the Sassy Biscuit Company, which is a brunchery specializing in scratch-made comfort food. You know, and with her grit and determination, I told you that hallmark of a good entrepreneur, and a helping hand from the local SBA, the Office of Veterans Business Development, and one of our small business development centers, she was able to fine-tune her business plan and marketing and funding strategies, and she did launch her brand new business in this brand new city that she found herself in. And what we need to do at the SBA and in the Biden-Harris administration is replicate that kind of success, like Jalan's business and the countless others that have been founded by military spouses across the country, you know, because our economy truly needs its brave entrepreneurs, as small businesses are the job creators. They create the products and services that we depend on every day. They solve global problems and, as I said, innovate to make us globally competitive. You know, and as I travel the country, I always get a strong sense of community from my entrepreneurs, but there's nothing parallel. I would say that there's the type of community support and engagement that you see across military communities is stronger than anywhere. And so when starting a business as a military spouse, you will not have to go it alone. You know, we have an incredible community to support you that we've built up with federal support as well as local communities, you know, with the SBA, Hiring Our Heroes, the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, and the Department of Defense Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program. You know, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I mentioned my grandmother, my father, who received federal funding to go to school as a war orphan, used his education to then become a veterinarian and start a chain of veterinary hospitals. You know, I grew up working in his business, starting my own businesses, and I do truly believe wholeheartedly in the opportunities and the great pathway to building wealth, intergenerational wealth for families through entrepreneurship, and it's critical nature and contributions that it makes to our nation and our economy. And I know the strength comes from the entrepreneur who takes that leap forward. And so I hope that some of you who are contemplating pursuing your passion and starting your business choose to take that leap forward and know that the SBA and all of our incredible partners will be there to help you in that journey as you build and create your own job. So thank you so much for the service that your entire family gives to our country and our nation to make sure we're secure. And thank you for all of you entrepreneurs out there and aspiring entrepreneurs for what you do for our economy and our nation. Thank you.
Presenting the Impact Award for Military Spouse Entrepreneurship, please welcome the Senior Vice President of Global Corporate Citizenship at Fiserv, Vivian Greentree.
Thank you. Oh, it does last. All right. Good afternoon and good morning. I was realizing as we're streaming this, I know that some people are probably up in the middle of the night watching this, which is so cool and just a great reminder. I think, Ashley, you said as we strive for world domination. It does remind us, though, that we are a global network and we are all over the globe. We are our best advocates, our best solution providers, and our best champions. So at Fiserv, we partner with small businesses every day to pursue big goals. And this year's recipient of the Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Entrepreneur Impact Award knows a thing about big goals. Like many military spouses in this room, the military life has afforded her the opportunity to travel across the country. And while full of wonderful experiences, sometimes those moves are a challenge to pursuing a career, a sustainable career. And so after a move took them to Montana, she pivoted. This intrepid military spouse took control of her career and began her journey to entrepreneurship. So let's take a look at this video as we introduce you to Gyllenhaal Johnson and the Sassy Biscuit Company, which is equally awesome as a company name or a band name.
I'm Gyllenhaal Johnson. I'm the owner of the Sassy Biscuit Company. I married my husband in 2006, right before he joined the Marine Corps. It was very difficult to find a job, even with a graduate degree, being a military spouse. I'd gone on 10 interviews and had gotten none of the positions. I thought this was a good time to maybe open a restaurant. The Sassy Biscuit Company is an elevated but approachable biscuit-centric restaurant. It's a really unique concept in that it's extremely trendy, extremely brunchy. It's got a little bit of innovation and a little bit of elevation. It's flavor explosion everywhere. Food to me means so much. I think because for me, growing up, food was just this fun time. You will see that throughout my entire menu. Everything has love and passion in it. We do a really amazing job. So I would tell other military spouses that are looking to start their own business to really understand, number one, what entrepreneurship is all about. You wear so many different hats. It was supposed to be a solution for being a military spouse, and so I set it up from the beginning with that mindset. You know, I have to find ways to trust people and put systems in place to know it's being taken care of properly. We're really just trying to focus on strategically growing and that we are continuing to impact the communities that we're in. One of my parents had a substance abuse problem, and so for me, when I went to culinary school, it was sort of an escape and sort of a second chance at life. And so at Sassy, we like to give second chances as well. So we work a lot in the recovery community. To me, it's very important to give people another chance because food did that for me. And so I like to do that with food for other people. I try to live by do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I really try to live by that to the T every day of my life.
So please help us welcome the 2023 Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Entrepreneur Award winner, Gyllenhaal Johnson.
Presenting the Bonnie Amos Impact Award for Lifetime Achievement, please welcome, from Booz Allen Hamilton, Andrea Insira, and from Hiring Our Heroes, Elizabeth O'Brien and Eric Eversole.
All right. Oh, music. Gosh. Still not dancing. Is anybody hungry after that video? I watched it last night at the wrong time, and I think I gained 10 pounds because I ate everything in the refrigerator. But Sassy Biscuit down in Richmond, definitely make a visit if you get a chance. This is one of by far, the most exciting parts of this event for me personally, and this year in particular. Our honoree is someone who has one of those personalities that is infectious. Their commitment, their care, and their her desire to make a significant and meaningful difference in the lives of our military families is something that we all should take note of and admire. And so we're really honored today to be able to present the award to Molly Raymond, someone who's been a very close and personal friend, someone who's made a difference in my life personally, as well as the lives of the folks on our teams, as well as our partners. And to help me introduce the award, please join me in welcoming Andrea and Sarah, Executive Vice President for Booz Allen Hamilton.
Hi, everyone. What a tremendous opportunity to return to this stage. As Eric, Liz, and I were talking about, the last time I was on this stage at this event was 2019, the last time we had hosted it together, and I am so excited to be back today. What I heard this afternoon gives me lots of hope for our military spouses across the world, across the globe, and I'm so excited to see all that we've done since I was on this stage. At Booz Allen, we have long recognized the invaluable contributions of our military spouses to the dynamic and ever-evolving workplace and workforce that we're required to support. Molly Raymond stands out as a shining example of what military spouses bring to the workforce: excellence, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to service. Thank you. It is therefore the utmost admiration for me to ask you all to join us in looking at the screen so that we get to take a look to honor this great American and her many remarkable achievements over the course of her lifetime. Please join me.
Do you ever meet somebody and you want to know everything about them? That's Molly.
I think what makes Molly special is not only does she jump in with both feet to help, but she delivers results.
She has such a positive attitude and such a can-do attitude.
She will remember your name. She'll remember your kids' names. She just truly, truly cares.
She has this poise and grace to her that is simply amazing. She's a powerhouse. She really is.
She is fiercely courageous. Mrs. Raymond is one of the strongest advocates for military families and spouses that the Pentagon will ever encounter.
We had a unique opportunity to stand up a new service. And when that first stood up, there was one person in the Space Force, and that was me. And we had to bring everybody else in. And so when Molly and I were talking about what her role could be on this, it was all about bringing families in.
The Space Force will never be able to thank her appropriately for all that she did. She jumped right in with no roadmap to follow and worked very hard, tirelessly. It was a full-time job for her.
Mrs. Raymond truly believed in inclusion in all levels. Mrs. Raymond believed that the Space Force spouses deserve just as much of the Space Force news as the Space Force Guardians themselves. So she started a newsletter where she would write all of the most important Space Force things that were happening and send it out to the spouses. And sometimes the spouses even knew before the Guardian members themselves.
She just is masterful at pushing out information, making people feel part of a family, and helping inform folks on this new service called the Space Force that didn't exist just months before.
She poured not only within the Guardians and their families, but then also took the time and really worked hard to work with military support organizations such as Hiring Our Heroes.
It was Molly's work on programs like Career Forward that helped create a pathway and inspire military spouses to find those meaningful career opportunities.
Mrs. Raymond partnered with Hiring Our Heroes and Career Forward to do a Google Career Certificate in Program Management with a mostly Space Force spouse cohort. There was over 100 interested spouses in the program, and the completion rate is on track to be at about 80%.
She knew they were retiring right, as a spouse, but she was so, we are going to take care of our guardians right till the very end, that even after they retired, she was still working on completing that certificate. And to me, I think that just speaks so great of her integrity, her genuine authenticity as the senior spouse, and how serious she took that role.
Because of the logistic challenges of being in the military lifestyle, Molly took a pause from her career. But she really didn't, because she immersed herself in other things, and that was largely volunteer work. She was instrumental throughout every base we went to. She volunteered everything. She's volunteered with the USO, the United for Reading program. She's volunteered with Easter SEALs. Again, large national level organizations to make an impact more broadly for military families across the globe.
She's a proponent for spouse advocacy, and she wants to make sure that those openings are going to be available for our spouses now and for beyond.
General and Mrs. Raymond set the tone for the types of prestigious jobs that military spouses deserve by hiring the first spouse under the Guardian Family Career Program within their front office. And this sets the tone for what military spouses can do within the Space Force.
There's a continuing thread that goes through all of this that shows that she's very much interested in helping our military spouses find spouse employment at or maybe a little beyond where they are.
I know that each and every day with leaders like Molly Raymond that we're going to help military spouses find those meaningful careers.
When I met Molly, she worked at a church. All my friends said, "You're dating a nun." And I wasn't, I was dating an angel. Molly's a remarkable lady. You'll never hear anybody say a bad word about Molly. She cares deeply, and I love her.
Molly, congrats. Thank you. It has been an honor of a lifetime to be able to stand up the Space Force with you and what we were able to work on with spouse employment. I wish you nothing but happiness and joy in this next chapter of a very well-deserved life.
Congratulations, Mrs. Raymond. Thank you for the history and connections that you've built together with us all. Semper Supra.
The light within you is one you have used to make sure others have been seen. Congratulations.
You'll never know how many people deeply admire you for your leadership, your encouragement, your kindness, and your thoughtfulness, especially me.
Molly, thanks for being my teammate, and congratulations on a remarkable award and well-deserved award. Our family's proud of you, and we love you very much.
Molly, congratulations on receiving the 2023 Hiring Our Heroes Impact Award for Lifetime Achievement.
Mrs. Molly Raymond and her family, the 2023 Bonnie Amos Lifetime Achievement Award.
My eyes might be leaking just a little bit. That was an incredible video. So thank you for the honor of this wonderful, wonderful award. I'm just so humbled and so grateful. So I would love to spend a few minutes saying thank you. And first and foremost, thank you to Hiring Our Heroes for selecting me for such an honor. When Eric and Brian and Liz told me about this, I was so overwhelmed with gratitude. It's a privilege to know Eric and to have such a great friendship and to witness his leadership. And Liz is so passionate and dedicated to military spouses. And Brian, I know he's around here somewhere, but he is so supportive and so positive. So this is just an honor. When I began this journey for Google certification, Hiring Our Heroes was right beside me all the way. I'd like to say a special thank you to Lauren Monelly, who helped organize guest speakers for our study halls and was our project management phone a friend. My intention for this project was to create awareness for the Career Forward program, which offers free certifications for military spouses in highly sought-after career fields. I'm a strong believer in sharing resources, but I thought this was different, an opportunity that military spouses really need to take advantage of. And if I committed to doing it with them, not just tell spouses about it, but let's walk this journey together to support, encourage, and uplift one another, then as a result, we would have more participation and encourage spouses to try. Throughout our journey, I heard comments such as, knowing I wasn't in it alone helped give me confidence. Having support meant all the world. I wouldn't have done this by myself. And I wanted to do this for me, to make a difference, and to have a fulfilling, purposeful career too. Well, it was an honor for me to earn this certification alongside these amazing spouses. They all inspired me, and I want to thank them for joining this journey. Thank you to Google for this opportunity that shows military spouses are valued, worthy, skilled, hardworking, and highly employable. These certifications will open so many doors. Thank you to all the amazing companies who prioritize hiring military spouses. They are an incredible talent pool from which to hire. Thank you to the United States Space Force and Chris Parrott for establishing the Guardian Family Employment Program, choosing to hire spouses and to help enable their careers to grow alongside their guardian is trend-setting and leads to retention. Thank you to the humbling video. I hope you didn't have to pay too many people for that, for the bride, or bribe too many people to say all those kind words, but it meant the world to me. Thank you to my family who is here today. They are my greatest joy. I'd also like to introduce my mother-in-law, who is an example of a selfless military spouse, Barbara Raymond. Thank you. I'd like to brag on the Raymond family. They have served since 1865. There's not been a break in military service since my husband retired last November, so 5 generations of Raymonds, and that's a lot to be proud of. Finally, it is an honor to do what we can to help the spouses and families who serve so gallantly. I'm grateful to hiring our heroes who make it their mission to help and serve military members, spouses, and veterans. So thank you for this honor. It's really, truly means the world to me, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you.
Please welcome our keynote speaker, CNN anchor and military spouse, Brianna Keilar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for all being here. I want to thank Hiring Our Heroes for having me. I know you've had a very exciting day and that you've heard from a lot of people and learned a lot. And I thank you for your time today. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about where I come from. You may not know. My name's Brianna Keilar. I'm an anchor at CNN, and I write a column called Homefront, which amplifies the stories of military families and veterans. And I'm also a military spouse. My husband is actually on terminal leave right now, so I'm a military spouse only for a few more months, and I'm confronting all of the emotions that go along with that. It's a lot. So just to give you a sense of my career arc, I have a BA in psychology and mass communications, which is like media studies. And I started in a really small town doing television news, Yakima, Washington. I don't know if anyone is from Washington State. All right, I see you over there. Where I did all kinds of things, carried my own equipment. I covered education, agriculture, general assignment. And I got a really big break, moved to New York City, and I got to work on this newscast out of CBS News that was on MTV's College Channel, and that's where I first got to start covering politics, which I had never planned on doing. And so already my career was sort of in a different place. I thought I would be a reporter in a local market, and so I was in uncharted territory for myself. But eventually I ended up at CNN. I've been there 17 years now, and I initially started working at our affiliate service, so it was sort of like being hired out for 6 minutes at a time to Milwaukee or Orlando or Austin, Texas. And then I did general assignment. I've covered the congressional beat, the White House. I covered the Hillary Clinton campaign, and now I've anchored 3 different shows, including the one I'm doing right now, CNN News Central, that just started not too long ago, a few weeks ago. And I've covered all kinds of things over the years: tornadoes, ice storms, terrible stories like Virginia Tech, the financial crisis of 2008, the passage of Obamacare, politics, you name it. But it wasn't until that time, covering a campaign in 2016, that I married my husband, which is to say, I'm not a typical military spouse, right? I had an established career when I met my husband. I did not have to PCS, so I haven't had to deal with some of those challenges, but I have been through 2 very long, seemingly never-ending deployments. And I also work in an industry that is just highly inflexible, and where bosses are often not understanding that the US military can be even more inflexible than the news cycle. It's funny, they really are like, what? But it is. So one of the big challenges for me has been sort of during deployment times having to say no to things, quite frankly, when my husband is gone. And the problem with that is that if you do have to say no, eventually you say no enough, maybe someone stops asking, right? So your employer stops asking. I have found that to be the case. And so I have to make sure that when I do have the chance to put my foot on the gas pedal, that I'm just very clear with my employer about how my life is ebbing and flowing, and now is a time where I am available to do whatever. You need me to travel? I can do it now. You know, my life is completely different than it was a month ago, and they don't always connect with that because they're not military connected, so it's really important to remind them of that. The other challenge is cutting back on, you know, fun stuff or even just the things that I really need to be doing just to take care of myself, to make room for work stuff so that by the end of the deployment, I'm like limping to the finish. I'm sure some people are very familiar with that. And a lot of that can be really isolating, especially if you have small children. I'm sure that some of you connect with that as well. And so when our youngest son was not even a year old yet, and my stepson was 2 years old, and my husband was deployed for, I think it was maybe his 6th deployment, but for me it was the first one, I found myself incredibly lonely, and I was very surprised. Because here I was working at a place that I'd been for more than a decade, and all of a sudden I felt very out of place in a place that I had belonged to before. No one really understood what I was going through. Most people, everyone, they were not military connected. And that's actually when I started kind of leaning into being a military spouse. That's when I started writing a column, CNN Homefront, and that's when I started reaching out to military spouses. And that's when everything really started clicking into place for me. I was lacking some confidence, to be honest, which felt weird because I was doing a lot, but I was lacking some confidence in just managing everything and being at work. And I think when I guess some of the advice that I would give about building confidence and communicating effectively in the workplace is just to remember that you belong there, you should have that job, you are good enough for it, and I think everyone has fraud syndrome sometimes. That's not just a military spouse thing, but I think it can be easy to have that as a military spouse. I know that I've had that when I'm dealing with some challenges being a military spouse. But also what I've realized is that our challenges are our strengths, because we can fix problems without complaining, and we can navigate really complex situations. And I think that when you talk to employers, they'll tell you there are so many things that you can learn on a job, but work ethic isn't really one of them. You know, you can teach someone almost anything, but that attitude is something that you can't. So there is a place, I think, where we all belong, but we also have to keep knocking on doors. And it's hard to know, but you have to knock on doors too that you think may not open. I almost didn't apply for that job that I had in New York City. I actually deleted the job listing because I thought I'm never going to get this job. At the time, I thought I don't have enough experience. It's so far away. How is that going to work with my life? So I deleted the job listing, and it was a friend. And I think sometimes our friends see something more in us, funny enough, than we see in ourselves. It was a friend who asked me if I'd seen it and encouraged me to apply. And I did, and I got the job. So I was very thankful that I'd kind of knocked on that door that I thought might not open. One of the other things that I want to talk to you about is being a military spouse in the workplace, because I know that for some of you, you may really lean into it, but I also know that some people do not, and that we also know a lot of military spouses who are younger who don't. They're afraid they're going to be discriminated against. They're afraid they might not be hired if their prospective boss thinks that a move is right around the corner, and so they might not even mention it. For me personally, it wasn't until I embraced that I was a military spouse that things really started to come together. But like I said, my bosses, my coworkers, they did not understand my life. And they also didn't understand that I brought something to the table that they didn't. Because my show writers only mistook a howitzer for a tank once, for example. I don't think we can assume that people are getting the full picture if we're not communicating it to them. Sometimes, I know for me, I'll try to keep it all together. I'll be doing the best job that I can, and I just want to seem perfect or like I have it all under control. And then when I start to get overwhelmed with things, I find that's not actually the best time to be communicating something about my needs to my employer. So what I've learned for myself is that sooner or later, if I'm going to have to come clean about my challenges as a military spouse or about a particular period in military spouse life that I'm dealing with, like a deployment or training, that it's just better if I do it when I'm not in the middle of it, you know, so that I'm getting ahead of it, I'm giving my employer a chance to get ahead of it, and they really don't mind in my experience. They certainly mind less than being surprised by it. If you can, pave the way for those who are going to come after you. I didn't intend to take this on broadly talking about military spouse issues or even just talking about them internally at CNN, but when I realized that I could make a difference, I thought that I should. And it's been one of the most meaningful things in my life, because we're invisible until we make ourselves seen. We experienced that. I experienced that recently. I was at my kid's school, and I wanted to know if there were any military families there. I asked in a school meeting, just of limited staff, are there any military families who are PCSing, they may be coming or going, that may need some support from people here in the school? And the person looked at me from the school and said, Yeah, we don't have, there's no military families at the school right now. We've had some in the past, but we don't have any right now. And I looked at my husband and I said, well, you definitely have one. And they went back to, they're going back actually to see if they have other military families, because we can be so invisible. I was speaking with a coworker of mine who is the spouse of a Guard member. She's actually reporting and producing right now on the front lines in Ukraine because he is home. But when he's not home, it's a very different life for her. And he has an upcoming deployment, and she contacted me and was saying that she was really worried about it because during the pandemic she had remote work, she could make it all work, but she's going to have some rotating hours. Childcare is going to be a nightmare, and she's really worried she can't make it work. I mean, she's trying to figure out, can I make it work? And we decided that we needed to elevate this more broadly at CNN. So we actually made an appointment with our head of DEI, our head of diversity and inclusion, and we found out that they just happen to be doing a census of our company where people are going to self-identify. They're going to say if they are veterans or any myriad number of categories, and we're working to get military spouse in there so that we can figure out actually how many we have in our company, so that we can figure out how to support them. You know, we have no idea even how many we have in our company. And then finally, I think it's so important balancing our work with our life, because our non-work lives are so much, but they're very demanding. And I think that they're more demanding than some folks are dealing with, right? I think they sometimes have less demands than we do. That means taking care of ourselves. And for me, that's been very hard. I mean, we've heard of hard earned. I would say this for me is hard learned. So taking care of yourself, you know, what does that look like for you? Maybe it's mental health. And I can tell you that TRICARE actually has pretty good mental health coverage. I use that, and I find it incredibly helpful. That's a huge tool in my toolkit. And you know, taking care of yourself, for myself physically. You don't have to be a CrossFit superstar. I get hung up on perfection. Does anyone else get hung up on perfection here? 5 minutes is better than 0. 5 minutes at anything is better than 0. And that's something that I have come to realize. So when I am budgeting, I'm editing my life, it's 5 minutes for this, 5 minutes for that. I actually have a mantra for working out that is, well, I got it because this Peloton instructor had a mantra. Hers was like, I am. Like, so inspiring. And mine is expletive, I don't wanna, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Which is how I feel about a number of things. I just thought that I have to be true to myself, so that's going to be my mantra. So 5 minutes for reading, 5 minutes for writing, 5 minutes for stretching. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes for working out, and sometimes that expands to bigger time frames. And then I try to subtract some time for what I waste, like Instagram scrolling. You don't have to be perfect. That's something I've learned. You just have to keep going. Sometimes it's as simple as one foot in front of the other. You've heard of superwomen. I'm sure there are superwomen in the audience. I am definitely not a superwoman. I actually live with chronic pain. I have fibromyalgia, so I have had to figure out just how to pick and choose, how to not always have my foot on the gas pedal, but how sometimes just to get by until I can. And so I'm here to tell you that you really can succeed that way. You know, you don't always have to be hammered down to succeed. And to that point, I would just like to leave you with some very, I think, informative words that I always remind myself of at work. And they come from Neil Gaiman, who is the author of Coraline. He gave one of my favorite commencement addresses that I've seen. I saw this, I did not see this in person, I saw this on YouTube, but it's about getting work. He was speaking specifically about freelance work, But he said, you get work however you get work. But people keep working because their work is good, because they are easy to get along with, and because they deliver the work on time. And you don't even need all 3. 2 out of 3 is fine. People will tolerate how unpleasant you are if your work is good and you deliver it on time. People will forgive the lateness of your work if it is good and they like you. And you don't have to be as good as everyone else if you're on time, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you. So again, you do not have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brianna. And thank you all for being here today. As you heard throughout the event, we still have a lot of work to do. But as we always have, we will roll up our sleeves and we will get it done. Thank you again to USAA, our presenting sponsor, and to all of our partners who show up every day to make change for the military spouse community. Thank you to the Global Hiring Our Heroes team for the work you do every single day across the globe in support of this mission. Thank you to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce team, from the events team to security to our leadership. We could not have done this without you. And now I welcome you all to join us for a reception in the briefing room, and don't forget to grab your swag bag full of military spouse-made products on your way out. Thank you and have a good evening.